Bang.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Professionally Profane Podcast, the first ever live edition of the Professionally Profane Podcast. I am David Ridderhoff. I am joined, as always, by my good friend Philip Charles VanDerHeyden IV, PCVIV. Mr. Phil, how are we doing today, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It's an honor to be here with these two gentlemen. We're going to be doing a full first round mock draft for anybody who's not aware, but I think if you're here, you are. First, we'll introduce the first ever guest of the Professionally Profane. You might know him as the guy that you love to laugh at his tweets on Twitter. Not laugh at, laugh with. He hates Caillou. He's a writer for the Windy City Gridiron, and he is a badass draft expert. Jacob Infante, thank you for joining us. And Nick, as you guys would know from episode 4 of the Professionally Profane, if I have that correctly, the Halas Beat Podcast, one half of that, and also a badass college football coach with far more wins than losses. Nick, pleasure to have you on. Thank you both for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, man. It'll be fun.
Yeah. And Jacob, where can the people find you? Where can they find you on social media? What's the tags?
Yeah, so you can check me out. So Twitter, X, I'm at Jacob Infante 24. Honestly, so that's where most of my sports stuff is on social media. I've got articles over at Windy City Gridiron that have like a Bears focus, and then general NFL draft stuff over at Pro Football Network.
Pro Football Network. And you, I believe you have a Patreon as well. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you for remembering that. I'm disappointed myself. I didn't get to, do the whole song and dance, but yeah, I've got a Patreon. It's got my entire 2025 draft guide, my entire big board, scouting reports for my top prospects. I did a whole 7-round mock draft, player comparisons, superlatives, the whole 9 yards. So feel free to check that out if you want. But yeah, thanks for remembering that, because that's something that I probably should have front of mind to shell out to people.
You should.
Yeah, it's well worth it. It's well worth it. The draft guide's
It is
phenomenal. Nick, where can the people find you at, my friend?
Real quick, I'm curious, what's the 24, Jacob?
Okay, so that was I made this account when I was in middle school. I wasn't really taking it too seriously until got late into high school. 24. It was some inside joke with some of my friends. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was, I don't know. Someone said some stupid shit to one of the teachers that involved 24. I don't remember what it was. I'm going to have to text some of my middle school friends, see if they remember it, because I'm going to be honest, I don't. I just remember that was a thing, and I was like, oh, I'm going to throw a 24 at the end of it. So there's no real significance, honestly. Okay. That's just, I wore 24 one of my middle school years in basketball, but I know that wasn't the reason that I, kept that as the number, even though, not to brag, the 8th grade East Suburban Catholic Conference B team, we ran that shit, we were
player of the year, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was a 5'9" power forward in 8th grade, and I grew precisely 1 inch the rest of my life. So everyone else that I was swatting the shit out of in middle school is now like a good 2-3 inches taller than me. So,
but he'll still swat the shit out of you. Don't you talk?
I'll still swat the shit out of you. Don't worry. I'm an undersized big. People hate playing me, not because I'm good, but because I'm way too aggressive when I'm playing pickup basketball. So
let's go.
There you go.
I love it. I love the intensity. Nick, now that we have the backstory on Jacob's Twitter handle, where can the people find you? And if you have a fun story as well, I'd love to hear it.
Oh man,
pressure's on.
Yeah. Well, I guess the coolest thing is I did a bunch of Spartan races, so all over the nation. That's the coolest thing I did athletically, because I was a late bloomer. Opposite of Jacob, I was 5'3", 115 as a freshman in high school, and wow. And then I grew, and then I filled out, and it was college already. So it was like, the athletic career is kind of over, which kind of sucked, but. I'm at _ Nick Whalen. That's because the real whoever at Nick Whalen is tweeted 5 times back in like 2009 and then never did anything with his account. So I had to pivot. So yeah, I'm at _ Nick Whalen, I think, on everything except for Blue Sky, which that's an interesting handle that everyone knows. It's like a bunch of stuff, but it's similar handle.
I love it. You can find me at Davey.17 on Twitter/X, and of course at Profane Pod, where we are going to be bumping out so much good content because we are going to be up in Green Bay this week for the draft. We're going to be live on the scene. We're going to have a big vlog at the end. We'll be doing some content live. We got a whole bunch going on this week. This is the time. This is the place to follow at Profane Pod. Give us a follow on YouTube at Professionally Profane Podcast, and on Spotify. You can find us there as well. I don't mean to brag, but you're going to see us with this. I went and got my boy to make me a Professionally Profane hat. So that's my cool story for the week.
Let's go.
So I just wanted to flex a little bit really quick. Between that and my number 13 Caleb Williams jersey, the one I bought in January of last year, 3 months before the draft even happened, before
Danny Parkins
was a Bear. Between that and that, I'm feeling myself a little bit today. It looks like we did lose Nick for a second here.
Nick
but
just got assassinated, everybody. I'm just kidding. Here he is.
I'm back.
Nick's trying to sabotage our stream. I see how it is.
I want to be on the other side. Jacob was. I want to be on the left side. Jacob was.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I really like this setup. I've always felt really close to Jacob, so now that he's a little bit closer instead of kitty corner, I think that's a really good setup. But the reason why we're all here today is we are doing our first ever live episode revolving around a first round mock draft, 32 picks. We are doing the entire first round. Every team, for the first time in a very long time, is walking into the draft with a pick in the first round. So every single team is going to be represented tonight. Everybody from the Bears to the Steelers. I know we saw a Steeler gang from my buddy Ian a little bit earlier in the chat. Join us in the chat. Let us know every pick, who you would take in there as well. Some of the good ones we're going to be sure to mention. Clay right now is in there asking where we can get the hat. Well, nowhere right now, but maybe we'll see in the future. I paid a lot of money for this hat, so if you guys want to spend way too much money on a hat for a podcast, then you definitely can. Let me know. But we are here for this first round mock, and we're going to I'd say jump right in, guys. How do we feel about getting this rolling? No specific rules, no time limits, but every team is going to be represented by one of us. And we're just going to go with who we would take if we were in the GM in this spot. We're going to go in order here, and we are going to start. We thought we'd give ourselves the two easy ones. So Mr. Phil has the number one pick in this year's the 2025 NFL Draft, and general manager of the Tennessee Titans, PCVIV. I want to hear, man, who are the Tennessee Titans going to walk away with in Green Bay?
All right, well, I'm not going to make this any harder than it needs to be, okay? Everybody knows that the Tennessee Titans don't have a goddamn quarterback. They've got some issues when it comes to that guy. And so we're going to take Cam Ward. We're going to take Cam Ward out of Miami. A few of his strengths, he has unbelievable arm talent. His placement in tight windows is pretty great, and he is a mobile quarterback. So, you want to see – I don't know, he's no Caleb Williams, to be sure. But I do love Cam Ward's potential, and Tennessee, congratulations. You sucked enough. Will Levis, drop to your knees, do this shit again, because your job is going to get taken, my friend.
Dude, I love the pick. I think that's pretty obvious pick. Jacob, Nick, I'm going to ask you guys a really quick. Do you think that's the right pick? Just real quick.
Yeah, I do. I'll keep it
that simple.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say go with the best value, but they have to get. I mean, every franchise is judged by their quarterbacks. They have to at some point. I watched Cam Ward live a few years ago when he played at Wisconsin when he played for Washington State. Now I was impressed. He just has to get more consistent, and then he'll be a better quarterback.
Yeah, I love it. It's a pretty easy pick, I think. I think everyone knows Tennessee's going there. I love the pick. I'm higher than most people on Cam Ward. I think he's a future MVP candidate. I think Tennessee's getting a really, really good quarterback with the number one pick here, which is going to lead to my number two pick, which is the Cleveland Browns. And I'm taking the Browns. And, man, the Browns really need pretty much everything. And it kind of sucks. I think the only two top-end players that really don't fill out enough for them are the two guys who are there. They don't really need a superstar edge rusher because they have the superstar edge rusher in the NFL, and they don't really need a cornerback as much as most other positions. But I do think that when you have the allure of the wide receiver and the two-way star, I'm going to take Travis Hunter off the board for the Cleveland Browns as the number 2 overall pick. I think it's going to be I think he'll fit in well. He'll help the team out for sure. I really wish he'd fall to the Giants. I think they could really use a corner and a receiver, and I think he'd be a great fit there. But I just don't see how Travis Hunter gets past Cleveland here. Does anybody think anything different there?
I really would have been interesting to see if they would have went Abdul Carter if he was healthy and he didn't have the foot question mark and the shoulders. He didn't get any surgeries for either one. So I wonder, because I think they're both great talents. It just would have been interesting to see if he was healthy, if they would have went the other way.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, I think so. Me personally, I have Abdul Carter as the top overall player in this class. I realized that Travis Hunter is probably going to be the pick here at number 2 if the Browns are picking here. I don't think you can go wrong one way or the other. Honestly, I think the thought of having Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter rushing off the edge on the same defensive line is a lot of fun to think about. But at the same time, I think Travis Hunter, I mean, they've talked so highly about him. Andrew Berry has outright, called him a unicorn. I think that, I mean, I disagree a little bit in the evaluation. I think he's a little bit better, or at least has a higher ceiling at corner than he does at receiver. But he's going to play a role on both sides of the ball in some capacity. And I think that if the Browns feel confident they can fully unlock that, then it makes sense, honestly. So I think, Hunter and Carter are neck and neck. I think, one of them's going to go 2, one of them's going to go 3. I think at this rate, it's probably going to be Hunter at 2. So I'd probably go Carter here, but I don't hate that at all, honestly. And that's what I'm expecting it to be for Cleveland.
Yeah. If you were Cleveland, would you consider trading out, or do you think Travis Hunter's too good to move on from? Jacob, I'll start with you on that one.
I mean, that's a good question. The only thing is I don't think there's a player that another team is going to be willing to trade up significantly for. I mean, maybe there's a team who's super high on Abdul Carter. Maybe there's a team who's super high on Travis Hunter, but you don't see too many massive trade ups into the top 3 draft picks for non-quarterbacks. And I think that if you're doing that, that's going to cost a significant amount of draft capital, even in this year where it's expected that trading up is going to cost a little bit less just because it's not as good of a class. I think the Browns have a chance to get a true blue chip prospect. I think given the way that this class is played out, I think you only have about 4 or 5 true blue chip prospects. I mean, that's just my opinion. They might disagree with me, but I think in order to trade out of that opportunity, you're going to have to get a massive haul. I don't know if there's going to be a team who's going to be willing to pay that.
Yeah. Just as a brief before I go over to Nick, the only trade I could think of top of my head was Will Anderson. The Texans traded up for that pick. That pick was the number 3 pick went to Houston. The Cardinals got the 12th pick, the 33rd pick in that same draft, and then the 1st and a 3rd round pick the year after. So we're talking a lot of value to move up from 12 to 3. Nick, do you think any team might be willing to do that? And would you do it if you were Cleveland?
I mean, if I was Cleveland, I would, because they need a quarterback, just like the Giants do. And Shador and Jackson Dart just aren't good enough. So to me, they want to move back. No one wants to move up. I joked today. I said teams 2 through 10 all want to trade down. And it's a supply and demand thing. So I mean, if there's no huge talents that people want to trade up for, or actually give legit capital to trade up for, then you have to sit and just take the good players as they go. I mean, I'm with Jacob in terms of Travis Hunter. I think the longevity of corner isn't as long, so he should try to play receiver, but he's not refined there. So really, he's like a great athlete that I think is very good at 2 positions. So I probably would have Carter over him, to be honest, if I knew he could be healthy. Just because also you dictate, I think, a lot more of the passing game by rushing versus being a corner.
Very well. I got to ask you guys, do you guys think that Travis Hunter is going to play both ways in the pros? Do you think it's going to be often, or do you think it's going to be spot on one side? Jacob, you can go first.
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe 70-30. I I don't know for sure because I feel like obviously he played a massive role on both sides of the ball at Colorado. He has the conditioning to play it, but at the same time, it's a faster NFL game. It's a more physical NFL game. It's a quicker processing. At the same time, I mean, he's going to play both sides of the football in some capacity. Judging by what Cleveland has him at, maybe they'll play a little bit closer to 60-40, something along those lines. But I do think if they're going to go offense, they have to involve him in defense at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to play both ways because he says he wants to, but also because they're not good. So like you're going to just play players because you can play both ways and it helps. I mean, I don't think he's going to be Pro Bowler on both ways, not at all.
I love it. I really think that Travis Hunter is a really solid addition to any team. I just think that the Browns are kind of in a spot where all their needs, as you mentioned, quarterback and a few other needs they really, really have, such as, running back, receiver, if you choose Travis Hunter as your receiver, you have that to pair across from Judy. But I just think there are teams that probably have a little more need for a Travis Hunter than the Browns do. So I went with them, but I definitely could see him going Abdul Carter. I think that would probably be a really good pick. It leaves the Giants at 3, which goes to Jacob, and I think he kind of alluded to it already. But can you go ahead and make it official? Who are you taking at number 3 for your specifically New York Giants?
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking Abdul Carter here. I think there's a pretty decent drop off in terms of positional value from this pick to what would be the next pick at number 4. I mean, I have Genty as my number 4 overall prospect, so he'd be the second best guy on the board. But at the same time, it's an edge rusher and a running back. So, I mean, I'm going Abdul Carter all the way. I think he's got the athleticism, the pass rushing instincts. I think his development as a technician was far better than, honestly, I ever anticipated from 2023, being an off-ball linebacker to being a full-time edge rusher in 24. I think there's a lot to work with here. And in this sort of scenario, I'm pairing Abdul Carter with Brian Burns. Mm-hmm. I'm looking to trade Kayvon Thibodeau if possible. I mean, obviously that's easier said than done because there has to be a market for him and you have to get good value and all that fun stuff. But I think it's an opportunity for the Giants to take the best player available. It happens to be a player with elite physical attributes, elite production at a premier position. So, I mean, this one I feel like was a no-brainer. I didn't really give it too much thought.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, but I'm going to put everyone on the spot now. Kayvon Thibodeau could be a trademark in the trade market now. Bear question mark? Anybody want Kayvon Thibodeau on the Bears? Is that a move you could see? I know they just added Dayo Odeyingbo, but with Dennis Allen being a very creative defensive coordinator, there might be an opportunity to put all 3 of those guys, Sweat, Odeyingbo, and Thibodeau, on the line together with Billings and Jared and Dexter, and maybe even stand a guy up if you need to here and there. Anybody think that he's the answer to that edge dilemma that the Bears have been facing the last few years?
I mean, Albert Breer had the report where he mentioned, the 5th-year options are due next week. So there's going to be some guys that could get traded. He was one, Thibodeau. The other one was Jamison Williams. I'm more interested in Jamison Williams because he has familiarity with Ben Johnson and with Antoine Randall L. They need that speed guy to take the top off. And I think it would very complement out the offense. Now, again, doesn't mean you have to give him the contract or anything like that. You can have him for 2 years. I would probably rather go that path than going Thibodeau. You wonder what the cost is, right? Like, what do you have to give up to get either of these players? Like, I don't want to give up any day 2 pick. Yeah. So, is it a 4th next year? We just keep giving 4th for Keenan Allen, 4th for Joe Tooney, 4th for whomever. But I think it just depends on cost for me.
Yeah. Phil, are you interested in either of those 2 targets?
I would agree, honestly. Like, everything Nick said was on point. I would love to have Thibodeau. I think he's definitely an upgrade from a pass rushing perspective. He's a good player. I just don't know what we give up. Spoiler alert, I want to give up something for another player in this draft. So I don't know. It depends. It depends on the price. But I do like the idea of it. I mean, the Bears need to strengthen their pass rush. And if they're going to do what I want, if they do what I want them to do, right, they might have to get creative with how they add to their pass rush. So, with that being said, yeah, it just depends on the price.
Depends on the price. Okay, maybe Kayvon Thibodeau in a Bears uniform. We're not really feeling it too much, but Jameson Williams does sound like a good move. I think he'd be a pretty good option there for the Bears if the price is right. But that's going to bring us to our fourth pick. And Nick, you're going to get your first pick of the draft. And I'm really interested in this one, knowing the top three that are probably going to be off the board. You're kind of the swing spot of the entire draft right now. You decide not only who the New England Patriots take, but I think you're going to shake up a lot of draft boards of ours here as well. So who do we got going here to the New England?
Yeah, and this is actually, I think, part of why, even though the Giants have two good defensive ends, they have to go Carter because the talent fell off. And so, because I'm not a big Will Campbell guy, and it's not just arm length, it's wingspan. I mean, he's historically low, and you could argue he's probably almost a better center even than guard due to some of that stuff.
Wow.
And so then you have, I mean, like Mason Graham, who also has short arms, and I think he's good. He's a good prospect. I don't like, Jacob was saying he's not a blue chip guy. And so like, even if you're the Giants, like if I'm just going back slightly, if they move back 1-2 picks for someone who wants Carter, do you want Mason Graham plus a second, or would you have Abdul Carter? I'd rather have Carter. I think it's very easy. So like, that's part of the game, I think, with the Giants, where they're really in no man's land. They have to just take the talent that gets there, or, you can't move back 5 spots and then take Shador. Like a lot of things just don't make sense for them. So I'm going to take Will Campbell here. I want to take a defender because, Mike Vrabel, defensive head coach. I just can't go Mason Graham. I know they have, Christian Barrymore with the blood clot thing last year, but Will Campbell can play anywhere. They need help all over the line. You want to help out your quarterback. That's just how things go. So I'm going to go Will Campbell.
Will Campbell. Okay. I think I'm higher on Will Campbell than a lot of people are. I like his mean streak. But Jacob, would you have gone Will Campbell as well, or would you have gone something different?
I probably would have taken Will Campbell here too, honestly. I think especially when you have a guy like Drake May who showed a lot of promise with not a lot around him last year, I think it makes all the sense in the world to surround him with as much talent up front as possible. I know they made some moves on mostly on defense, but both sides of the ball in free agency. I think Will Campbell fits what Mike Vrabel likes in an offensive lineman very well. I mean, obviously the arm length, the wingspan is a bit of a concern for sure, but I think again, like you said, Davey, the mean streak, you look at the athleticism, you look at the spatial awareness he has against, how well he processes against blitzes and exotic rush packages. There's a lot to like there. So I think he'd be a blue chip player if he didn't have such insanely short arms. But I agree. He's still, he's just a hair beneath that tier for me. But at the same time, in a class where I don't think there are too many blue chip prospects, I think it still makes sense to go with Campbell here. I think he's the best option you could have.
Yeah, I like that. I do want to note really quick, since you were talking about Mike Vrabel, is that he was just a part of the team that drafted Peter Skoronski just a couple of years ago and moved him directly inside. So it would not be super foreign to see Mike Vrabel's staff take a tackle that played in college and move him inside. Phil, I want to know if you like that pick, and also I believe that means that you are on the clock with the Jacksonville Jaguars as well, my friend.
It does. I'll first talk about Will Campbell. I think that he's a really good football player. And so I do understand the concerns with his short arms. If I was a GM or whatever, I would move him into guard because it makes a lot of sense. But I do think that his floor is extremely high. I think that he's a dog. I like that. And when someone asked him about his short arms in that press conference, and he got offended. He was pissed off about someone asking him about that. I like that in a football player. It's a little bit of like, oh, yeah, you think that you doubt me? Let me show you. He takes things personally, a little bit like my boy Michael Jordan. I say my boy, but, the legend, the GOAT. So I like that. I think it gives him a little bit of edge. And I really think that they need to protect Drake May because as mobile as Drake May is, he needs to get out he needs to be able to step back and throw a pass. I believe in Drake May, actually. It's really weird for me because I hate Tom Brady and I've hated the Patriots for a long time. And now I find myself kind of rooting for them. It's kind of weird.
Wow.
Kind of like want to see Drake May do well because I was a big fan. So, so that's how I feel about Will Campbell. If you have any thoughts, or also I'll move into my pick with the Jacksonville Jaguars. No thoughts? Okay. So for Jacksonville, all right, big bet. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, I struggle between two different picks here, and maybe I'm feeding my own narrative, but I think that these guys are going to select Mason Graham. I believe that Mason Graham I believe D-line is a huge need for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mason Graham is a really, really good prospect. I've heard people discuss his, Nick just mentioned it about his arm length, and then that is true. But I think that he has shown, like, on film and in games and, all of that he's a football player. And I like football players that are producing and they can overcome that measurable thing. You know what I mean? Maybe he'll never be Aaron Donald, but I think he's going to be a really good, possibly longtime Pro Bowl D lineman in this league. He has great athleticism, and his instincts are extremely solid. He's just a guy that knows how to play football. So, and I also love his hand usage. The guy knows how to shed blocks. I used to play a little bit of D-line once in a while in my youth, and I always felt my greatest asset was that I was a high IQ football player, and I always knew that D-line could grab. That's something the O-line can't do. So I love that Mason Graham utilizes that because they can get really creative with how they want to beat that offensive lineman. And that's something that Mason Graham does. And I think he's only going to get better at the next level. So I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars select Mason Graham.
Mason Graham. I like that pick. I think he was recently seen practicing in Jaguars gear. So I don't know if that's something that everyone else would have taken. But, Nick, I know you got thoughts on Mason Graham. Do you think he ends up here at 5, though?
I mean, I think it's certainly a possibility. I mean, when you look at that D line, right? I mean, when you have Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen at the edge, but then you've got Mason Smith, so second-round pick last year. They still got Eric Armstead. You had Graham in there. I mean, that's a really good front four. The problem is the back end is bad, and I wonder at times, do they get another weapon here? Is this a Tyler Warren spot? Is this a Ted McMillan spot? Like, I think you go a lot of different ways. I think those are the 3 guys I would look at.
Definitely. Jacob, how about you? Where would you agree with one of those 3, or are you going Mason Graham?
I mean, it's certainly something I consider to go elsewhere. I'd take Mason Graham here. I think, again, it comes down to you have a 3-technique defensive tackle who can rush the passer, but honestly also defend the run at a very high level. I think that's something not enough people give him credit for. At least when they look at, he's a defensive tackle who's going to go top 10, they just assume, he can rush the passer really well, and that's true. But I think he really shows a lot of good spatial awareness. Like when he locks up at the point of attack, he has a good understanding of when and how to stack and shed blocks to free up his hands to make tackles in the run game. And he's strong enough and low to the ground enough to where he's able to stand his ground and he's able to eat up those blocks and, eat up those gaps. So I'd go Mason Graham here. I definitely agree that secondary would be something I'd consider here. I mean, I think if Will Johnson didn't get hurt, then this is probably someone you're looking at very heavily at 5 here if you're the Jaguars. I think even with the injury, I think that he's someone you should consider here. Obviously, you could go with a weapon like Warren, McMillan. There are talks about Genty. I think they're good at running back, but
I do too.
If they don't think so, then by all means fire away. But yeah, I think Mason Graham's the right call here.
Yeah. They just spent a first-round pick on a running back just a few years ago with Travis Etienne. So, they definitely can look running back. They can look at a few different spots there. But if they don't, then it becomes scary times if you are a Phil, because this is the first time that Ashton Genty can come off the board. And I have Ashton Genty going to the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm making the pick. They're going to get him. When there's a draft with this, when it's a team that needs talent so much, I mean, you have to get high-end talent. I always say, and I think I said it on the episode we did with you, Nick, where I said, we agreed on it. When you're drafting top 10, you're not good enough to draft based on need. You just have to get the best players available. If you were good enough, you wouldn't be drafting top 10. So when I see the drop off in talent from Ashton Jeanty to the rest of the field, if I was the Raiders, I couldn't pass on it. I couldn't pass on an Ashton Jeanty for a couple other positions they definitely need and will have available. But to me, it just doesn't make sense. I'm going Jeanty at 6 for the Raiders. And I just want to say, I'm sorry, Phil, and I deserve the glasses. I mean, are you guys big on Ashton Jeanty to the Bears, Nick and Jacob? I'll start with you, Nick. Do you think that Ashton Jeanty, are you big on the Bears trying to get him? Would you move up if you were Brian Poles, or are you just like, if he goes, he goes?
Gosh, that's the cost is what's going to matter to me there. I honestly think people are underrating Jeanty in terms of his talent. He's not getting enough credit, I think, in terms of his receiving prowess. You watch his 2023 film, super impressive there. His instincts in terms of in the open field, reading blocks, like all that stuff, I think he doesn't give him a credit for. I mean, he made big plays, but he's very consistent. I mean, like you look at Judkins and Hampton and Henderson and Caleb Johnson, like they all have parts of their game that are good. They're not nearly complete like Jeanty is. So to me, I think he's worth 10. He's worth 6. I mean, he's worth that, especially because this class sucks. Like, that's the problem. Like, Jacob was just talking about Will Johnson. Like, I think Will Johnson to the Raiders makes so much sense if Will Johnson was healthy. But he's had there's rumors of a knee issue right now. He had a shoulder issue. He had another lower body issue to begin the year last year. But I mean, it's tough to even name their corners right now after them having some issues there. So, I mean, they're really bad there, just like Jacksonville and on through. But like, you can't reach for needs, because when you keep reaching for needs and you keep getting like 80 cents on the dollar, your franchise doesn't get that much better. You have to just start taking like really good players, and Jeanty's the best available.
No, that's a great point. I love getting 80 cents on the dollar. I want to go to a comment that was below really quick from our buddy Jerome. Thank you for joining in, Jerome. If you are here, I know Jerome has, but if you're not already subscribed and liked the video, please put the thumbs up and give the subscription, so that way we can keep getting more people in the chat and hearing more great questions like this. Jerome asked, how long do you feel that Ashton Jeanty is going to be a high-end talent? I mean, I think that he's one of those rare talents at running back that is going to get a second contract. I think he's going to be worth 6, 7, 8 years. He plays that style. It's a hard-hitting style. He's not afraid of contact, but he also has such a low center of balance that he bounces off so well that he kind of braces. He could brace for impact and still gain a few extra yards. So to me, I think that he would be a really good, running back for a long time in the NFL. I just see LaDainian Tomlinson so much on his film. I know he won't be that level, but it's hard not to see LT when you watch his Boise State film, including against Penn State. My buddy Ian in the chat saying Jeanty didn't play at a high enough level to be drafted that high. He didn't play well against Penn State. I strongly disagree. I think he was really good against Penn State. I thought that he found every hole that was given to him, which was rarely ever any, made guys miss and still had some nice runs, and they really leaned on him a lot. So I thought his play there was really good. But Jacob, really quick, I'm going to ask you before we go to pick number 7, which is actually your pick. What do you think about Ashton Jeanty to the Bears in general, and would you trade up for him?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a huge fan of Jeanty. He's my number 4 overall prospect this year. I think that I'd trade up for him at the right price. I mean, realistically, if you are going to move up for Jeanty, you're probably going to have to move up to the number 5 pick to jump in front of the Raiders to secure him. That's a pretty steep price. You're probably going to have to give up one of your second-round picks, which I don't know if I'm willing to do. I mean, especially for a running back. I mean, I know Jeanty, I believe, is one of the very few blue-chip players in this class. And I'm with Nick, honestly. I think that he doesn't get enough love for what he can do in the receiving game, just because Boise State didn't leverage him insanely well in 2024 in the passing game. I do think he did a good job there in 2023 as well. And yeah, his yards per carry numbers were a bit down in Penn State, but at the same time, it's a Penn State defensive line, which was one of, if not the most talented defensive lines in college football this past year. I mean, Abdul Carter, next year you're going to have Zane Durant and the defensive tackle and Denis Dennis Sutton, the edge rusher as well, who are going to be draft picks. So it's a really talented class, a really talented defensive line that Boise State was simply outmatched by. So I think that there's not going to be that big of a talent discrepancy in the NFL, but behind whatever offensive line he's behind and the defensive lines he plays on a weekly basis. So even then, I mean, he still ran for 100 yards. He still had a solid enough game. It wasn't amazing by any means considering the high volume, but I think if that's the concern is he had one meh game against an unbelievable defensive line, then I think that that's still a person that I'd take with the 6th overall pick. So I mean, I look at that, and I also point to his performance against Oregon too, where he had 3 touchdowns on the ground. He averaged over 7 yards a carry. He was consistently making big plays against Oregon too. So that's another one of those games where it's like, all right, he doesn't play at a group of 4 school, but he's still putting up tremendous numbers. He's still finding the crease. He's still running over and running through defensive players. And yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the film speaks for itself. Obviously, the production, the stats of Jeanty are phenomenal, but I think it's really the film that you watch that separates him from your average running back prospect. And I think that's what puts him in that tier of a Bijan Robinson, of a Saquon Barkley, that level of prospect coming out. I don't know if he's better than both those guys coming out, but he's at least pretty damn close.
Who's your comp for him, Jacob?
I know it kind of goes down to what Davey said, but I settled on LaDainian Tomlinson for him.
I love that.
Yeah. And I don't know. Like I don't always love jumping to, all right, I'm going to compare this draft prospect to a Hall of Famer per se, but I look at it's a similar build. It's a similar running style, similar toughness. And that's such a well-rounded back that I feel like in this case it warrants that comparison. And is that to say he's going to have an LT level career? Not necessarily, but I think the playing styles are pretty similar. So I'm curious who yours would be, Nick, because I know that's a really high bar, might honestly be unfair, but I think there are a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, well, I think part of that is LT doesn't get enough credit for how physical he was as a player. People just think of his, his slashing and cutting ability and his speed in the open field, but he was a physical player. And also comps for me, at least how I look at when other people do comps or when I give them, it's not about career arc. It's about who their game is like. So like people that don't watch film, when I say, hey, this guy's comp is this player, it's like, hey, you'll know this player so you can kind of think of this player so you don't have to study the film. Mine is Maurice Jones-Drew. Now, I know that's a little bit ways back and people don't know that one, but like a short, squatty guy who always has leverage, who can play with power, but also good in the receiving game and good as a runner. And I know people aren't as big a fan of him, but Maurice Jones-Drew led the NFL in rushing one year. His career got knocked down because of a knee injury. But, I mean, he was like, honestly, I know his offensive coordinator back at UCLA. He was actually, I think, like 5'5.5", 5'6". So he's a little shorter than Jeanty. But Jeanty bounces off guys because he's just so low to the ground. And he has he runs and he gets hit and it doesn't even look like it's a struggle for him. He has such different contact balance that is special. But I think both of those players, they both remind me of Jeanty.
Yeah, I love that. Maurice Jones-Drew, really good running back, really bad analyst. I just want to say that. He drives me crazy, man. But he's so good in Jacksonville. Him and Fred Taylor for like that rookie year he had. Oh, that was such a fun duo.
Fred Taylor, man.
Dude, I'm a Fred Taylor guy. Madden 07, I used to run with those two. Oh, man, we were putting up 350 rushing yards in teams. So fun. Jacob, you are up next, man. And if we were in the old school format in Radio City Music Hall, the people would be going crazy right now. Jets, Jets. 7 pick, and they have your pick, Mr. Jacob. Where are they going?
Yeah, so I love the Madden 07 shout out. I grew up on that game, so I love that. Spent way too many hours on that on the Xbox 360. So anyway, here, see, this is a tough one because I'm between 2 players, but I'm taking the superior positional value. I'm taking Armand Membu here from Jets. And I think that, look, is Justin Fields going to be the franchise guy for the Jets? I don't know necessarily, but the way that no, well, yeah, I'm being polite. I'm leaning towards probably not, but I don't want me or any of you guys getting blown up in the comments by some of the guys that you mentioned on one of your
not the cult. Oh no,
Black Ticker, don't come for me.
I know. But no, I think I'm looking at it from the Jets have a really good opportunity to pair up two super talented offensive tackles. Yeah. You brought in Olu Fashanu last year, and I really like Armand Membu. I know part of that comes down to my Mizzou bias, but at the same time, having watched his development over the last 2 years, especially from 2023, where he's just this, he was a physical specimen, didn't really know what he was doing, but how quickly he developed in terms of his accuracy of his strikes, in terms of his pad level, in terms of his spatial awareness. Is he still a bit of a work in progress? Yes, but I look at it as he has the physical attributes that are way tougher to teach, and he's shown that he can learn at a very quick level. So that's someone I'm definitely taking in the top 10. You get to keep Membu at right tackle, his natural position. You get to keep Fashanu at left tackle, his natural position. I think that, that Jets offensive line, they have some pieces up there that I like. Get Elijah Vera Tucker, Joe Tippmann, John Simpson, and then you can get Fashanu and Membu as your two offensive tackles. That's a good group. I don't think that Jets offense would be elite by any means, because I think they're still lacking probably like 2-3 more weapons, and they don't have the quarterback situation. But you'd have a really good offensive line there. You'd have a really good, young, talented offensive line. And I think that you can work with so much there that whoever the quarterback is going forward for the Jets will end up in a good spot.
Yeah. Nick, I'm interested in your thoughts on Armand Membu going 7 here. What are your do you like Membu? Are you a fan of his, or?
Yeah, Membu, I'm a high on. I've had him as my offensive tackle 1. Again, I know, can he play left or not is a little bit of a debate, but here with the Jets, it's perfect. He can play right because they need a right tackle, in my opinion. I love Membu 1 because he's young. As Jacob's saying, he's still figuring it out, but he's got great feet. I like his effort. He's got a lot of the tools. His build might not be perfect for tackle. He's a little short, but everything else I think is there. And so to me, like, if people are gonna love Will Campbell because of everything, but he has short arms and a short wingspan, why are you not liking Membu, who I think has probably a higher ceiling than Will Campbell does? Yeah. And he can play inside, he can play right tackle, left tackle, he can play anywhere. So to me, I always had Membu a little bit higher because of ceiling. I think floor, you're risking a little bit, but to me, I think you got to shoot for a ceiling in the top 10.
Phil, you like Membu, right?
I do. I love Membu. I think that his RAS is really – I'm not always a fan of like, oh, man, look at that RAS, because I think workout warriors in the NFL, I've said this before, but like Vernon Golston comes to mind always. He's always like the guy that just screams out in my head, like, workout warrior that can't play football well. But I do love Membu. I think that his athleticism is in addition to how good he is as a O tackle. I also want to go back to something that I can't remember who said it. I apologize for that, but everyone's freaking out about if he has to move to left tackle for somebody because he never played left tackle. I'm sorry, but I'm going to ride with Kyle Long on this one. As somebody that played football, as somebody that knows how hard it might be to go from one side to the other, it is a completely overrated conversation. Now, if he gets selected by the Jets, right, he's going to go to right tackle. That's fine. But if he has to be left tackle for a different team, I'm sorry if I had that wrong. He's a left tackle, right?
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
If he has to go to left tackle for another team, it's really not a big deal, guys. Really not a big deal. I feel like it's just something that people blow out of proportion because they want to talk or feel smart. And it's if Kyle Long, by the way, is somebody who switched from right to left, I believe, or he switched from one side to the other when he went from college to the pros. If he says it's not a big deal, why do you think you know better? I'm just going to say that.
No, I love that. Jerome putting down at the bottom there that Fields balls out. He's gonna get me a Fields Jets jersey. I will say that Aaron Rodgers has a better chance of going to the Jets and going off this year for them. So that's fine. If you want to get me a Jets jersey, I'll wear it. I'll make it my profile picture for the entire playoff run. And if they win the Super Bowl, I'll keep it up forever. Done. Deal. Super deal. That's going to bring us to the number 8 pick in the draft. I almost skipped one of our guests. My goodness. Nick, you are on the clock here for the Carolina Panthers, who actually get a first-round pick this year. Ryan Poles didn't fleece this one out of them. So where are they going to go with their first-round pick since Bryce Young? Actually, no, I'm sorry. They did trade up from 33 to 32 last year to take Xavier Legette. So my joke fell flat, but I'll just ask who they're taking this year now instead.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is Panthers fans have this hatred towards us now. That's just because we wanted you to lose for 2 straight years. Yeah. Now we don't care. Hey, you guys can win. Panthers. Good. The picks don't matter now. It's interesting. I have 3 different ways that I want to go with this pick, and I'll leave the last one, the one that I'm going to choose. I like them getting a weapon for Bryce Young. I like Ted McMillan a lot. I think that he's been kind of overanalyzed to the point where people have him underrated now. I like Tyler Warren. This is actually a spot for him here. If you think of the best maybe talent of a skill guy, you can go either way there. But their defense is just not good. They need talent, and I'm not a huge fan of this player, but I know that there are a lot of people that are, and he can play anywhere on this defense because they have holes all over. Besides Derek Brown and J.C. Horn, I'm gonna go with Jalen Walker here. Jalen Walker can line up anywhere. You watch his film, he makes plays. That guy has instincts. He's a tough player. He kind of in that Abdul Carter role that Jacob was talking about in terms of at Penn State, where he could just kind of lines up anywhere. Or I'm sorry, I was thinking of not Abdul Carter. Sorry, Micah Parsons, but lines up anywhere, A gap, B gap, C gap, drops back, just makes plays. And so the Panthers need help. The Panthers already have Thielen. Yes. I think he's I love Adam Thielen, but I think he's 48 now.
Yes.
Jalen Walker, I think, is the pick here. There's other defenders I could consider, but I think Jalen Walker is the cleanest fit here.
Yeah, that's a huge pick, and really one of those guys that all they talk about is his leadership. I think that having a leader on the defense moving around there, as you have Dave Canales on the offensive side, would be really good. There's a lot of options for the Panthers to take here. They need quite a bit still. Jacob, what do you think of that pick? Do you like Jalen Walker there?
I do, yeah, and I think that I'm definitely considering a receiver there, especially McMillan. Maybe you could go Tyler Warren in that regard, but I think Jalen Walker, as far as the best, just a good pure football player, I think makes a lot of sense. I mean, you speak to his athleticism, you speak to his versatility. I think that he's my comparison for him has been Frankie Louvu, honestly, maybe even a little bit more explosive coming out. And he fared well with the Panthers, different regime and all that, but still you have a blueprint of how to utilize him properly. You can rush him off the edge. You can use him as an off-ball linebacker. Use him and make sure you use him in both, though. I don't like him being siloed into one specific position. And while I have him as an off-ball linebacker, I really think he's just a do-it-all type of defender. So he's someone, you have a really significant advantage if you can use him properly. And I think that the Panthers could be able to do that. I'm on board with the pick here. I also don't think that there's a standout pure edge rusher who stands out as okay, you have to take this guy at 8. So I like the Jalen Walker pick here for sure.
Do you have him as an edge or no?
I have him as an off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, so do I. I think it's just better for him. You could rush him periodically, but it's tough for me to say a 6'1", 243-pound guy can be your edge, which is somewhere some people have him there, Dane Brugler, et cetera. So.
Nice pick, Phil. I know you are up next, man. You got the New Orleans Saints. You get the last pick before the Bears jump in, and give me an idea, man. What do you think they're going to do here?
So I think at this point, based on who has been taken, and my thought that the New Orleans Saints need secondary assistance, I'm going to take Will Johnson cornerback from Michigan. I think that they, not knowing a ton about the Saints, but just based on everything I've read, they need help in the secondary. And I think that Will Johnson is really good. I think that if he wasn't injured, he'd be much more highly talked about. I mean, he has really good size and really good speed. You love to have that from your cornerbacks. I feel like that's something that maybe you could say, I don't know, speed-wise, but Jalen Johnson, our own Jalen Johnson, really does both of those things well. He's got some size, got some speed, kind of maybe reminds me of a Charles Tillman type even. I mean, Tillman wasn't the fastest, but he always was able to give Megatron a whole lot of shit because of somebody. He was able to get physical with him and whatnot. I think that Will Johnson has great instincts, and I think he's a good playmaker. So overall, I think Will Johnson would be a great pick here for the New Orleans Saints.
I as a Michigan fan, I love Will Johnson. Him and Mikey Sainer still, I think you put them on an NFL field right now and they'd still shut down most teams. I do love him. I'm interested to see how he does at the NFL level because the two main issues he has are things that are going to be really, really targeted in the NFL, and that's his over the top speed and his ability to help in the run game. Teams are going to run outside at him, and teams are going to send their fastest receivers deep on him. But if he puts everything together, he can be a top tier cornerback in the NFL. Nick, I'll go to you really quick. Do you like Will Johnson to the Saints here?
I mean, I'm a big Will Johnson fan, so yeah. I think this is, again, because of the rumors of the knee and other things, I think that he's going to fall from everything that we're hearing. But I think he's a good football player. The other thing that's just he is great. The things that he's good at don't show up on the RAS score. They don't show up on, the other things. He has good football IQ. He's got good instincts. I think he pattern recognizes well. His quick reaction times, which I think help with his questionable short shuttle, questionable 40 time. He hasn't run one since high school. So like all those things, but he's got good ball skills. I mean, he's got multiple pick sixes, which I think is more than you can say for a lot of corners. So I think he's a good ball player. I think the Saints just need a ton of help. I know there's people that rumor them getting Genty. Gosh, can they afford to go Genty? I mean, they need O-line, D-line, quarterback. They need a receiver opposite Olave, and I like Shaheed, but they need a big guy. Like, there's a lot that they need. I don't know if they can go running back.
No, I definitely agree with that. Jacob, I'm going to pose a little bit of a different question for you. Let's say the Saints do say, we really need a cornerback. Is Will Johnson your cornerback one this year, or do you think maybe Jahdae Barron might be a higher pick? Or kind of where would you go if you were an NFL GM?
Yeah, I'd go Will Johnson here as well. I mean, I clarify Travis Hunter's my cornerback one just because I view him a little bit higher in that regard. But as far as a pure bona fide corner, as far as someone who's not a freak of nature, two-way superstar, then yeah, Will Johnson's my top guy there. I think you summed it up well, Nick. I think there's a lot to like there with the fluidity, the instincts, the ball skills, the physicality. Even if he's not the fastest guy out there, he plays fast. And I think that's what's more important at the cornerback position. And I mean, I think the Saints, if they don't realize now that their rebuild is long overdue.
Oh my God.
I think this draft is going to be clear evidence that, hey, this roster kind of sucks, and you have been pushing back, all these, salary caps, void years, restructuring contracts just to stay afloat, and it didn't get them anything. I think they should have torn it all down once Drew Brees left. They didn't. Now they're paying the price. I think you just go best player available. That's Will Johnson here in this case, in my opinion. Man, that Saints team, I know that's, I like Kellen Moore a lot. That team might be pushing for the number one overall pick next year.
I definitely agree with you there. That definitely would be the spot. The team I would expect to get the number one pick. I hate to say, I got a few friends that are Saints fans. Those poor souls. If I'm saying that as a Bears fan, you really got to understand how tough of a spot they're in as Saints fans. But that is going to bring up the Chicago Bears, and I heard the rumors. I saw the comments. I saw everybody saying, "Wow, David saved the Bears for himself. David wanted to be the guy to pick for the Bears," and I am going to pick for the Bears. But we're all going to pick for the Bears. We know you guys. We know how you guys work. So really quick.
I want to bring this up.
Well, I let the other three take their pick before I go with my official pick. I want to hear in the chat, who do you think, as Bears fans, the Chicago Bears should take with our board as it is so far? There's a ton of intrigue, a lot of options here. Phil, I'm going to start with you here, man. The board, the way it is right now, I took Ashton Genty away from you. Who do you think the Bears should take if this is the spot that they're in?
You got me in a pickle here, Dave. And basically, I mean, with this whole draft so far has me in a pickle. I feel like this is like, honestly, personally, I think this is not a worst case scenario, but I don't feel great about it. I don't feel great about the way this board has fell for the Bears. So that's why I'm going to preface before I pick it by saying I would trade up or down in this draft. I would either trade up to make sure you get a blue chip prospect, because I'm a big blue chip prospect guy, and I tend to think that we're closer than a lot of Bears fans do. And I think Ben Johnson agrees with that. However, with that being said, I would love to trade back and obtain assets, especially if the board fell the way it did here, because I just feel like if you're not going to get a blue chip guy, and who I'm going to select next is going to be someone like, if you can move back a few spots, that'd be fantastic. Like, honestly, moving back wherever, and obtaining more assets in this draft, because I think this is a deep draft, but it's not a draft that's high on big time prospects, right? So I like obtaining more depth here if you can. But oh man, I'm struggling here. And I'm going to do something that a lot of Bears fans might hate. And I'm sorry, Jack from the BFR podcast, because you're going to hate me for what I'm about to do. I love you, Jack, but I'm taking Tyler Warren. I'm taking Tyler Warren because I think that he's the best tight end on the board. It's not because I don't like Cole Kmet. I believe in two tight end sets. I was big on Brock Bowers to the Bears last year. I was all over it. I wrote an article about it, actually. Thank you, Brock Bowers, for making me feel really smart. However, I want to preface everything by saying that I don't think that Tyler Warren is Brock Bowers. You could also go with the other tight end here. I think his name is Loveland. I'm sorry. I'm just going off the top of my head. I know who he is, and I've seen what he does, but I just think that Tyler Warren is a more complete football player, and I think that Tyler Warren gives you the flexibility to move. If you don't want to re-sign Cole Kmet at the end of his deal, right? You keep them together through Cole Kmet's deal, but it would allow you to move on from him afterwards, if that is so what you want to do. I think that Ben Johnson would get really creative. I know that Cole Kmet and Tyler Warren are kind of similar, but I think Ben Johnson can get really creative with that in terms of you don't know who's going to be what. Like if you had a pure receiving threat on the field with Cole Kmet, you'd always assume maybe that guy was going to receive. If you truly never know based on their skill sets, that actually kind of opens up more things. I mean, as a defensive player myself, that would be kind of annoying as fuck for me because I can't really key on somebody for what I know they're good at. So I would go with Tyler Warren here, but I want to preface or postface everything I just said by saying I would have traded up or traded back if I was the Bears.
Yeah, that's fair. Nick, let me hear you next. There's a player that I'm in my head thinking about that I know you're super high on, and you might convince me if you pick this guy as the 10th pick here. But I'll let you take the floor.
I am between two guys, and I'm gonna go against you here, Phil.
That's fair.
If all things are equal, I would want to go with a premium position here. And premium position, y'all, is you think about how much that really, really good player would cost in free agency. And tight ends have a very low hit rate historically, especially early. I know Brock Bowers, I feel like that's always in people's heads now, but you have to go through and look at Hawkinson. You have to look at Kyle Pitts. You have to look at, a long time ago, Brandon Pettigrew. Like you go through the list, and that's a struggle. And then, I like Malachi Starks. I feel like that's a little bit of a reach here. I'm not a big Kelvin Banks guy. So really, I'm down to two guys, and I'm going to list both of them because I don't know that either of you guys are going to think of them. Ted McMillan is the guy I'm thinking of, and not because we need a receiver, but he's one of the best players available. But a top receiver costs $30 million, right? 35, I think, is what Jefferson got, and the top tight end, Trey McBride just got 17. So you're looking at potentially twice, the worth in a receiver. And what's the difference? Tyler Warren comes out as 12 personnel. If McMillan comes out to 11 personnel. Like it's a weapon either way. So to me, I think if all things are equal, I want the more premium position there, because you never know what happens with injuries either. I love Warren with his Wildcat stuff. So don't get me wrong, y'all. But I would probably prefer Colston Loveland. He's very different than Cole Kmet in terms of his route running. He's a better blocker too. He's also longer, and he's 2 years younger. So if I had to just pick between the two, I would probably go with Loveland. I know there's the injury issue, but we'll see how that goes. I'm going to pick the one that everyone. I'm a big fan of his game, his film. He's not popular. I get it. I'm gonna go with Mike Green.
I love that.
Premium position. And again, I don't know the off the field stuff. I don't know that. I do know that everyone has him mocked as a top 15 pick. He's from Marshall. You have to be a really good ball player for that, and the film shows that. Now, again, if the stuff off the field is serious and he's off the boards, then he's off the board. I don't know that. We don't have that information. But from what I read in The Beast, Dane Brugler said his last two head coaches speak really highly of his character, and he never got charged. But here's what I do know. I know Dio Odengbo is more of a run stopper. He's okay as a pass rusher, better interior pass rusher at times. And Mike Green gets after the quarterback. Led the FBS in sacks last year. His 3-cone and short shuttle were insane. It's top level. So if you could add a guy that could get double-digit sacks to this defense, it would feel very complete. You think of like what would help the Bears the most this year? I think it would be that type of player. So I would go with that. But again, I don't know, his off the field stuff. So I'm not going to speak to that. I'm just going to speak to the film, and I think he's a fantastic player.
I love it. Jacob, before I give the official pick for our draft board, I want to hear your opinion here. Where do you go with these first 9 picks for Chicago?
Yeah, so and I do think it's interesting to bring up Mike Green, because I'm with you. I think that I'm with Nick here. I think that Odengbo honestly might be a better pass rusher along the interior sometimes than he is off the edge. He's a good run defender, but not a ton of juice. He's a little bit of a bigger guy. And Green, is a little bit more undersized, but he's a tremendous athlete. He's got incredible pass rushing instincts. He uses his hands super well to stack and shed blocks. Knows, all right, this move doesn't work. I'm going to counter off of this. Super smart, super athletic pass rusher. I think that, naturally in the way that my scale works, if you have those allegations, I can't comment to those. They could be false. They could be true. I don't know. I have to say, all right, I'm going to give like a little bit of a ding just because me personally as an outsider in all this,
for sure,
there's some uncertainty there. And the fact that, he's a smaller school player, there's a slight ding there. He would be my edge rusher too, if it wasn't for the uncertainty in regards to the allegations. So I definitely understand him at 10. That's not the direction I'm going to go, but I certainly understand. I think the fit works. He brings a lot of juice that the Bears really need off the edge. If you want to go best player available, my top overall player on the board is Tyler Warren. I'm looking at it, and it's, again, this isn't a pick that I'm absolutely over the moon about. If this is the board in real life, which is very honestly realistic,
yeah,
I'm gonna be whelmed. I'm not gonna be pissed. You can still get a good player there, but I'm gonna be like, this is such a mid board right now. Warren's my top guy. I do agree with Nick. I agree with Nick in that I think Loveland is a higher ceiling than Tyler Warren. I think Warren's a safer player because he's more physical. He's bigger. He's not coming off that injury, but at the same time, I think Loveland honestly might be a better fit for if the Bears want to have like a true, 1-to-1 Sam Laporta sort of role in their offense. I think Loveland would fit that better with Warren because I think Loveland's the better athlete, the better route runner. So both of those two are in mind for me. I recognize I'm much higher on Kenneth Grant than a lot of people. I think that he's a tremendous run stuffer. I think he's someone, low pads, sturdy anchor, really good athlete for a guy who's 330. I see someone who's going to be an impact run defender, which the Bears need, and someone who's got some potential as a pass rusher. I don't think he's ever going to be like a a double-digit sack type of guy, but I think he's going to step in right away and contribute. Is it the sexiest pick to get a run-stuffing defensive tackle at 10? Absolutely not.
No.
But I do like Kenneth Grant, and I think I don't understand the buzz of him falling out of the first round. That's just me. You guys might disagree. Other people might disagree. That's totally fine. I'm just a really big fan of Kenneth Grant. So one of the tight ends, Kenneth Grant, Josh Simmons, I'm also considering as well. And there are some rumors there as well, as far as maybe there's a character issues. I don't know. I've never spoken to the guy. I've never spoken to his coaches. I don't know that. I just know on the tape, he honestly might be top 10 if it wasn't for that injury. And by all accounts, it seems like he's recovering really well. He's, on pace to, be at 100% very soon if he isn't already. So one of those four guys, I see that comment. Why not draft Hampton? I see Josh Connerly in the mix as well. I'll touch on that real quick and then turn it over to Davey because I know we've been on this pick for a little bit. Hampton, I'd love in a trade back. I'd love Omarion Hampton in a trade back. But again, I think in this class, it's way easier said than done. Just because I don't know if there's going to be maybe the Colts want to move up to 10 to make sure they secure Tyler Warren or something like that. I don't know. I think Hampton's a very talented player. He's a good running back. I think he produced really well in Chicago. But I don't know if he's a top 10 pick for running back. I don't think he's that good.
Facts.
Well, not that good, but I don't think he's good to the level of I'm going to use a top 10 pick on him. That's, I guess, the better way to put it. And Josh Connerly, I do like a lot. I think he deserves to go in round 1, but he's more of a late round 1 type of guy. The reason I say that is because I think he's a little too similar to Braxton Jones at this stage. And they have a lot of the same strengths, a lot of the same weaknesses. I think Connerly's an incredible athlete. I think he moves he's got quick feet and pass protection, good tempered movement, good body control. He's got a bit of an edge to him, but I think just the anchor's lacking at this stage, and that can, see him get pushed back with speed to power. So I think that you bring in Connerly as your left tackle. I don't know how massive of an upgrade it is. I think he'll be a similar type of player. I think he'll be an average to maybe above average starting left tackle in the league. I don't know if he's ever going to be elite. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, sure. It'd be nice to have another solid offensive tackle for cheap for another 4 or 5 years. But at the same time, it's like, all right, we're moving off of Braxton Jones because we don't want to pay him $20 million a year. Are we going to move on from him just to draft someone who's a very similar player with the similar weaknesses? Yeah. So I like Connerly a lot. I just think he's more of a late round 1 guy for me. So,
yeah, I love that. And that brings it to me for the pick we're going to use for our draft board. I specifically asked you to validate what I wanted to do. So I want to say thank you.
Oh,
Nick,
my
for
God.
doing that. I'm taking Mike Green here, guys. I think he's a really, really good
I love that.
rusher. I love his film.
Do it.
He has a repertoire of moves he can go to. He can win with speed or power depending on the situation. And I mean, I've seen him use power on bigger guys than him, and I've seen him use speed on smaller offensive tackles. He could do both at a really elite level. I think he can come in. I think he'd be a double-digit sack guy very early for the Bears, especially if you have Montez Sweat across from him, and if we can see the continued growth of Gervon Dexter as a pass rusher. He was getting after the quarterback a little bit last year, and that helps any defense out big time. So if you could have that and pair Mike Green with them, I think you get after the quarterback. They just prove that they're willing to put money and put resources into the trenches this offseason by getting a brand new offensive line, basically. And I think now's the time to keep going in the trenches there. I take Mike Green here, and I think he's going to be a double-digit sack guy very, very soon in the NFL. I'm not, as we mentioned about the allegations, I'm not even thinking about him. I truly, he left the school. There's been nothing about it since recently. To me, I'm not worried about it right now. I see a lot of people like the Mike Green pick in the chat. Thank you all for joining in and making it known. I agree with a lot of the comments. I do want to point one out really quick. I know Phil might have stepped away, but I'll make sure he puts it on the screen a little bit. Mike Green isn't the right size for Dennis Allen defense conversation from Honey McMahon. Thank you for that point, because that's a very important point. I do not care what Dennis Allen liked in the past. That's kind of my take on it. Really good defensive coordinators are going to find a spot for a Mike Green. If you have enough talent, if you continuously force yourself to just only take guys that are a certain size, it just seems like you're not being flexible enough with your defensive game planning. So to me, you get a Mike Green talent, Dennis Allen will use them and be able to really maximize his potential, I think. So I really like going there.
Dave, I have something on that. So like as a coach, y'all, I actually don't really understand only having the same type of guy. Like if let's say Ben Johnson had only the same, like every receiver was 6'4", 6'5", 220, and it's like Brandon Marshall, right? You're not going to threaten offenses vertically, right? That's the concern. Or you're not going to be good getting in and out of breaks. So like you want to have a variety of receiving weapons, right? Which we just talked about this with Loveland versus Kmet versus whatever. And I would think the same thing in terms of getting after the quarterback, but also if we can't hold up against the run, then we need to have different guys. Like you need to have a variety of guys to attack. And then that actually leads me to this. And I was a little sarcastic with this on Twitter, but if everyone's like, hey, you have to have this certain type of guy, or Dennis Allen doesn't want him, then they need to trade Austin Booker and get whatever value you can have, because he's even smaller than Mike Green. And so then you're going to, use him as, I used him in a trade up to Jacksonville to get Ashton Genty and a mock. But like, to me, I think you want to have a variety. Like, and if you don't, then it doesn't work. And the other thing I think that's interesting and why they could go D-end, and if you want to talk, I'm not huge on Mykal Williams, but I'm way higher on him than Shamar Stewart. Is they talked about moving in the last one of the last press conferences. Dennis Allen talked about moving Dio inside to pass rush. So if you do that, that's 4 in there. And I don't mind Kenneth Grant, like Jacob saying, but it's tough to say, hey, we're going to have Dexter and Billings and Grady Jarrett, who I love Grady Jarrett, by the way, y'all. I think like I am so hyped about Grady Jarrett. And you have Dio inside to rush. And if you draft the guy, which they should hopefully on day 2, that's a log jam inside. And then outside, all you have is Dio, Sweat, and Booker. Like, so I think they need someone off the edge to get more pass rush.
I think it's great. And I think it's a great point on the screen now by SoBack Sports. Having the same type of player constantly makes you one-dimensional, easy for offense to pick you apart. You hear all the time about how much offenses are evolving, how much defenses are evolving. The team that's going to keep doing the same thing every single year is going to get left behind very quickly. So phenomenal point right there. I'm going to go over to Jacob now to move past the Bears. The Bears are done with the first round. They can start preparing for picks 39 and 41 or looking for a trade. But now it's time for the San Francisco 49ers. So Mr. Infante, let me hear it, man. Who's going to the Bay Area?
So, I mean, this is another one you can go in a lot of different directions. I don't want to stretch it out too much. I mean, I know I mentioned Josh Simmons as an option for the Bears that I wouldn't mind at 10. I'm going to take him here at 11 for the 49ers.
Nice.
I look at it as the 49ers lost a good amount of talent in free agency this year. I think they're going to have some tough decisions to make. If they do want to pay Brock Purdy, if they don't, whatever they want to do, they're going to have to figure all that out. But they've got a lot of tough decisions to make going forward, and suffered a good amount of losses this past offseason. So I think building a foundation, or strengthening the foundation you have with premier position players makes a lot of sense. They have a need at right tackle right now. Trent Williams he's still playing at a really high level, but he's not going to be in your starting lineup forever. He's not, in the twilight of his career. So I think that Simmons is someone, I mean, he did play both tackle spots over the course of his collegiate career. So he's someone, a really good athlete. I think he'd fit that San Francisco scheme pretty well. Whether you keep him at right tackle or you start him at right tackle and then eventually move him to replace Trent Williams at left tackle down the stretch, you can go either way on that. But I think that's that would make sense for the 49ers to go down that road.
Yeah, I like that. Nick, would that make sense for you as well?
I mean, I'm worried about the 49ers because they have so much skill talent. And I mean, Trent Williams is old. They just lost Aaron Banks. So, like, they need to replace that line soon.
Yeah.
And I like Josh Simmons. What I heard is the character stuff is like football based in terms of being a teammate and like being helpful, with coaches and things like that. Just like small things there. But yeah, I think he's a phenomenal player. I wish he was longer. Again, I'm a length guy. I'm gonna keep bringing up. I wish he was longer, but I think he's a great pick there. Like if you put him at right for a little bit, and then you still and then he'll eventually groom into the left. I think that's a phenomenal idea. Yeah, because I mean, also think of like what's their biggest asset is Brock Purdy. So like you want to protect him, and he's not super tall after he gets his big contract. So I think it's one of those things where it's a domino effect of helping multiple areas.
I love it, man. I think that's a really good pick myself. Phil, what do you think about offensive line for 49ers? Do you think this is a good pick, or are they a team maybe they could trade up to 10 with the Bears potentially?
I think that could be possible. I guess if they're worried that the Bears might take, maybe we could do the Philadelphia thing with them, right? If they're worried that we're going to take an offensive tackle, if we can smoke screen them enough, or if we can convince them that someone else is talking to us to come trade up, I think that could be something that Ryan Poles does, because if he can convince them that this guy's about to get taken for them, like if they think Simmons might go. I mean, we picked up a free fourth when we traded back with Philly because I don't believe we were going to not pick anyone else but Darnell Wright. You can say what you want about the pick, but we were going to take him. So by trading back with Philly one spot, we got a free fourth rounder and we got the player that we wanted. So I think that you might be able to do the same thing here. And that would make me very happy. No matter, like, that would make the pick in this first round so much better for me. I do think this is a good pick for the 49ers. You can argue Josh Simmons versus Banks. With that being said, I think Simmons has a higher ceiling. If he never had that injury, he'd be probably in the conversation for is he the top offensive tackle in this class. Yeah. So I like Simmons a lot here. So
I love it. Nick, you're up next, man, and you get America's team. I mean, they had to build the stadium so God could watch his favorite team. You can't forget that. What do you have? The Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? Where are they going? Number 12.
I'll make this probably the quickest pick. Ted McMillan. They need a receiver. He's the best receiver on the board. It's shocking that Tyler Warren is still here. I thought about that for a half second, but I do like Jake Ferguson. So yeah, they're going to go Ted McMillan, and they'll just appreciate the value, but that's also going to help out CeeDee Lamb from physically carrying the entire offense again another year.
Yeah, no, I actually had started typing in Ted McMillan in our board before before you even said it. It seems so obvious. Does anybody really want to say anything besides Ted McMillan if this is the board for Dallas at 12? Jacob or Phil, any thoughts going otherwise?
No, I think this is a good pick. It makes a lot of sense. Good value, fits a need. Run it in.
I love it. Phil, are you different there? You like that?
I do really apologize. I was looking at comments. Please give me that one more time, Nick.
I was going Ted McMillan.
Ted McMillan. Okay.
Yeah, Ted McMillan. Sorry. Yep.
No. You're fine. I think, first of all, I actually have a little bit of inside information about this. I work with two Cowboys fans, and then my first line sergeant is actually, her husband is also a Cowboys fan. And I'm telling you right now that, yes, here he is. Oh, I don't want to put him up. I already did. My bad. But yes, they want Ted McMillan, man. They want Ted McMillan really bad. So I'll defer to them, right? I'm not a Cowboys fan, and they all told me that that's who they want. So I think it's a great pick. I think that he's probably, arguably, maybe not arguably, the best player on the board. Definitely. So good pick.
Definitely. And Phil, that brings you up here, man. You got the Miami Dolphins at pick number 13. Let's hear it, man. Where is Miami going?
I think that Miami could really use an offensive tackle upgrade. So I'm going to go with Banks here. I think that Banks, you could have went with Simmons or Banks, depending on who you like more. But I just think that Banks is a really solid tackle. I think that Miami needs to protect their quarterback. We know they need to protect their quarterback, right? Like, I don't want to make light or make a joke about something that's really serious, because I'm very worried about Tua Tonga. I can't say his name.
Yeah, that guy.
Tua's name, Tua's head is a worry, right? So you want to keep him upright. I think that Banks really helps with that. He's kind of like a really classic offensive tackle. I know that some people don't love that because he's maybe not as he's not maybe that next generation offensive lineman, right? He's kind of like, he's big, he's strong, he does everything pretty well, but he isn't like as elite. That's why he's not above Membu and even Simmons. Maybe he's not like really great at those things. But I just think that Miami really needs to keep their quarterback upright, and that's why I'm taking Kelvin Banks Jr.
I gotcha. I know not everyone's a huge fan of Kelvin Banks here. Jacob made a reaction. I love that. I'll give the floor to you, man. What do you think about the Dolphins going with Banks here?
I think that's a good pick, honestly. I think there are a lot of people with extreme opinions on Kelvin Banks one way or the other. And
yeah.
I think he's somewhere in the middle, honestly. I think that there's a lot to like with his mobility. There's a lot to like with his raw power. He's got a dense frame, big wingspan. The arms aren't super long, but, he's got broad shoulders, so that expands his reach a little bit more. The lunging is a pretty big problem. I think that's something it needs to be cleaned up, and that affects his balance. He ends up on the ground too many times. But I think that he's a high upside offensive tackle. That's someone worth betting on with the 13th overall pick. Even if he doesn't live up to his potential, I think he's still an upgrade for that offensive line in Miami. And I agree. I think protecting Tua should be a massive priority. If they don't do it in round 1, they better do it in round 2. Yeah. So,
well, and the good news is with them. Sorry, the good news with them is that they need help inside and outside. So if he can't play left, then you're still getting the benefit there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of talk recently about him being a guard potentially or going over the right side. So lots of options there. I just realized that Nick is drinking out a Michigan State cup. I didn't realize that our few times we had talked because I've been flaunting about how much I love Michigan this entire show.
All right, hold on. My wife went to vet school at Michigan State. This is her mug.
No way.
Yeah. Boil her up, baby.
Okay, boiler up. I just wanted. I've been talking about Michigan a lot. I wanted to clear the air in case there's any.
I told you I like Michigan. I met Harbaugh. Yeah. We're good.
I remember Harbaugh. I remember Harbaugh. I just saw the logo and panicked. That's why I'm not a professional athlete, because I panic when I get in tough situations. So that wouldn't be very fun.
That's why.
But
I'm just kidding.
Lucky for me, as the guy taking the Colts pick right here, is there's not really a lot of animosity here at all. It seems like there's a pretty simple pick here for me. I'm going to go Tyler Warren here for the Colts.
Wait, what?
Kind of feels like.
Sorry, I said Tyler Warren. My apologies. I didn't mean to interrupt you. My brain did a thing there.
Get out of here. It's my pick for my Colts. Yes. Tyler Warren, I really like Tyler Warren. I think that you were spot on earlier, Nick. I know my friend Jerome was in the chat mentioned a little bit ago, those top-end tight ends don't always perform. There's always there's been a lot of tight ends you think we're going to do a lot better than they end up doing. I remember how much the people loved O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard was going to change the tight end position, and 5 years later, he was out of football. So, it's not a guarantee, but Tyler Warren, big, physical, finds soft spots and coverages really well. I really like his potential as a tight end in the NFL. No, I don't think he's Brock Bowers, but I don't think it's fair to compare him to Brock Bowers because, no, he didn't ask Brock Bowers to get drafted last year. That's not his fault. He does well at what he does. So I'm running to the podium and taking Tyler Warren if I'm the Colts there. And then I'm going to hand over to my friend Jacob with the Atlanta Falcons at pick 15. I think is a very, very interesting spot for Atlanta.
No, absolutely. I can go really in a lot of different directions here. I know the Falcons, it seemed like I've been mocking an edge rusher to them in the first round for the last 7-8 years, and they never seem to do it other than 2017. I'm going to go Michael Williams here. I think he's the top edge rusher available.
Nice.
At least, or I should say the safest. Well, maybe not the safest, but when I put it like this, I think that he's more refined than Shamar Stewart. I think he's got a higher football IQ. He's better against the run, but he's also bigger than a James Pierce Jr. He doesn't have he's stronger than a Donovan Ezeraku. I'm going to go Michael Williams here. I think that he's got the size, he's got the length, he's got the power, he's got the short area quickness. Even if he's not the fastest in a 40-yard dash, I think that he's shown enough quickness off the ball to be able to create that initial penetration. So I think Michael Williams is the type of guy who can factor into the rotation at a high level right out of the gate. Is he ever going to be a consistent double-digit sack guy? I don't know, but I like him a lot as a dude who could get like a good 6, 7, 8 sacks at his peak pretty relatively often. And those type of guys make a lot of money in the NFL. So Michael Williams is going to be my pick here at 15 for the Falcons.
I love it. Nick, I know when you appeared on our show, which you could find on our YouTube channel, of course, we had talked a lot about the edges and the spots they might go. Do you like Michael Williams here, or is there another edge you would have taken it for the Falcons?
No, I think he's the best one because he's the cleanest. I mean, character issues aren't really there. I don't like that he just said his ankle still isn't great from this last year, but he's young. He's 20. He still has, I think, more upside than kind of whoever is left. And they they desperately need a defensive lineman. I mean, that team is like, we just don't care about defense. Let's just keep taking the skill guys. You know, it could have just taken Matthew Golden, just stay with the what the Falcons always do. But yeah, they need a DN help really bad.
I love it. Nick, I'm going to keep the floor yours here because you are up next with the Arizona Cardinals, a team that I've spoken very highly about. I really like what Jonathan Gannon is doing down in Arizona. So I'd be really interested to hear where they're going to go with pick 16.
I have a lot of ways that I would like to go. Michael Williams was going to be who I was going to take here, Jacob, just so you know.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, right. I'm going to do something that's probably not, might be considered a little bit of a reach, but I think in NFL draft circles, this is something that tends to happen more on the draft day and not as much in mock drafts. I'm going to go Gray Zabel here. They need interior O-line help. He's very flexible. I think he's a guy that got a lot of love after the season and the post-draft circuit or post-season circuit, and then it kind of died off a little bit. But you can put him anywhere. You really, really need to keep Kyler Murray upright. You really need to have some versatility there. I mean, you look on the inside. I mean, they have, Evan Brown in there, who I know the Bears had talked about potentially bringing in as center. I mean, there's not a lot of talent on the interior of that O-line. They have Paris Johnson, who I like. Joan Williams is the right tackle. I'm not a big fan of. And O-line is always a good thing to invest in. So I'm going to go Gray Zabel.
Gray Zabel, I really like that pick. I have the Seahawks coming up a couple picks, and he was actually the top of my board there. So I did get sniped with him. So I was also going to reach. Phil, do you like going with Gray Zabel here? Do you like that pick?
I do like that pick. I'm going to be honest. I love the love for centers. I had somebody that played a few years of center in high school. I know, crazy, 5'7" little guy like me, but that's what happens when you have to coach up everybody on the O-line to get their assignments right. I have a bunch of big guys next to me that maybe not necessarily always remembered their assignments. So I love the love for centers. If the Bears, honestly, I wouldn't have been mad if we didn't sign, a center in free agency. I would have been it would have been high for a center. I would have liked to trade back for him, but I wouldn't have been mad if we took him either. I just really love his mean streak, man. I love a guy that can get nasty in the trenches. Yeah. And Greg Zabel does that.
No, I definitely agree. I love Gray Zabel. Phil, you have a team here that can use a lot, but they are just so interested in paying wide receivers that they left all these holes in their roster. But the Cincinnati Bengals up at pick number 17. I'd love to hear where you think they're going to go.
Okay, well, I just want to preface everything that I'm about to say because it makes me a little bit sick. I don't want this guy for the Bears at all whatsoever, but I already railed against workout warriors, but I'm going to take this guy because I think we're at a point in the draft with who's off the board that this guy makes a lot of sense because he's high ceiling and the Bengals need that because they don't give a we're on the channel. They don't give a shit about defense. Yeah. So I need them to actually give a fuck about the defense. So I'm going to take Shamar Stewart. He's the edge from Texas A&M. He's a big dude, workout warrior who barely produced. I have a problem with that. However, like I said, he does have a high ceiling. If he can be coached up and can use his physical gifts in order to produce on the football field, then you put him opposite of Will or Trey Hendrickson. Sorry, I was having a moment there. I would be pretty stoked if he was able to realize those gifts, because opposite of Trey Hendrickson, he's not going to get doubled. He should get singled, and you want to hope that he's going to pan out. Yeah. I wouldn't go anywhere near this guy with a 10-foot pole, but for the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm going to select them because I think that he has the highest ceiling, and they need that.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's probably a good attempt at bringing in a superstar. Nick, I know that we talked a lot about edges, as I mentioned on our episode, so I'm going to let Jacob talk a little bit. Do you like Shamar Stewart here at 17? Does he think he's a good fit for Cincy?
I think as a complimentary rusher, it makes a lot of sense if you do keep Trey Hendrickson along. I mean, obviously, and you have Myles Murphy there in the rotation as well. I think at least in year one, rotating Stewart in with those two guys would help him out a lot because, again, I don't think he's ready to be a full-time starter right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. I think that he has all these physical attributes but doesn't necessarily know what to do with it yet. I think his ability to work off a counter move isn't all that great. Just, gap awareness against the run isn't fantastic. Processing needs to speed up. But, again, he's a guy who's, insanely – he's big – he's long, he's powerful, he's fast. He's got all the physical tools to be a superstar. Yeah. So long. He's got he's a physical superstar. Just need to, be patient with his development. I think if you feel confident you can keep Trey Hendrickson for at least another year. You can slowly work Shamar Stewart up there. And I think him and Myles Murphy would be a really talented edge tandem going forward. Just a matter of maximizing those tools. So yeah, I think he should go round one off of upside. I don't think he should be a top 10 pick at all because I don't think he's ready for that. But I think that a team maybe in the second half of the first round, which is where we are now, it makes sense for him.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. Nick, I know as mentioned, we did talk about edges and, Shamar Stewart is a guy that we definitely talked about there. But what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'll keep it quick, but I like this phrase. I heard someone say this, and I like to use this. If you didn't bite as a puppy, you're not going to bite as a dog. So if you couldn't do this in college, you ain't going to do it in the NFL. Yeah,
I'm not a fan myself, but at this point for the Bengals, you got to at least try for a superstar pick of some sort, I would say. So, it's either going to be a starter of some sort, or you take your chance. So they take their chance. If Phil has say, I have say over the Seattle Seahawks. I think that with the new quarterback coming in, you just saw that you kind of have to surround him with a lot of talent. So I have the Seahawks getting another weapon for Sam Darnold. I'm going to have them take Matthew Golden off the board here. I think he could be a better receiver than Ted McMillan. I'll say it. I don't know for sure. It might be a hot take, but I was big on the Malik Neighbors being better than Marvin Harrison train last year. I really like Matthew Golden. I watch a lot of Texas games. I think he could be a really good contributor in the right system. Nick does not like that pick, so I'd like to hear more about just why, exactly what made you react so strongly to me saying that.
I just want to have a bet with you on this.
Bet live on the Professionally Profane.
Yeah. To me, Matthew Golden, I think, rose a lot because of his combine, but he does not play up to that speed. I think he's a good player. I think Ted McMillan could be a great player. Ted McMillan did it for 3 years. Matthew Golden obviously transferred in. I just think that what people imagine Matthew Golden as versus his film are kind of two different things. I think he's going to be probably a really good wide receiver too for a team. I just don't think he's going to be a star. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, but what is interesting though is Isaiah Bond. People thought he was going to be the guy that was going to transfer into be the guy, and eventually, and they have obviously some good young guys there too. But Golden emerged, so I'll give him that part of it. But I just don't see him being. I think he's a late first, early round 2 guy personally.
Gotcha. Phil, do you have any thoughts on Matt Golden? Do you think he might be a player in the NFL or?
I do. So when it comes to receiver, I do give a little bit more grace about production. Because I feel like in the college football game, there's very few quarterbacks that are good enough to give them the production that they maybe necessarily would have. Now, that might be a cop-out, but I think a guy with the speed like Golden, I think that he's going to succeed at the next level, given the right quarterback. So I guess that's a big preface because, I don't know if they're ready for that, but I think it just depends. But I think that Golden could be a great receiver in the NFL. I like his speed. I just hope that he's more Tyreek Hill than, John Ross. So
John Ross is not a name you want to be added with. I love it. Buccaneers are next up on the clock. This is another team who brought in a journeyman quarterback a couple of years ago, and it's worked out really well. So the Seahawks bring in Sam Darnold. Of course, the Buccaneers chugging along here with Baker Mayfield. And Jacob, we're going to add to the Buccaneers' wealth of talent right now, a playoff team again last year. What do you think for them at this pick?
So honestly, you can go in a lot of different directions here. I think it should go on the defense. Honestly, looking at it, the front seven in particular, I think could use some work. Levante David's still playing at a very high level, but he's only going to be around forever. And I think there's an opportunity to get a really toolsy linebacker here. So I'm going to go Jahad Campbell for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he's someone where, look, I'll admit he's not my best player available on my board here. But again, I think you shoot for upside. Campbell has the size, the length, the athleticism, the power. There's a lot to like there. Yeah. And I think that he's still developing as a processor in terms of, consistently feeling things out, hitting the right gap and run support. But I think that there's a lot of upside as a blitzer. There's some upside in terms of his ball skills and coverage, even if the processing isn't amazing yet. I'm going to go Jahad Campbell here. And I think that he's someone who's probably going to go a lot higher than, honestly, I'd take him. But I think that this would be a really interesting fit for the Buccaneers. So that's going to be my pick here at 19.
I personally think that's really good value. I think Jahad Campbell could go a lot higher in this draft. Nick, I think I may have saw another reaction here to Jahad Campbell. Do you have some impressive thoughts on this man as well? I believe.
I was excited for this pick from Jacob because there's a lot of guys here I think that are good value defensive wise. I knew it was going to be a defender. I didn't expect him, but I also just think Levante David's just going to play for ever
a million years.
He's gonna be 45. They're gonna be getting it done. He's like Derek Brooks reincarnated,
Yeah.
But I like Campbell's film a lot. The one thing that could happen, I've heard some injury concerns maybe that could have him drop down, but we'll see if those are true or not. Everything is smokescreen right now, but I think he's a fantastic football player. So and the thing is I really like what Tampa's done. They have, I think, really done well in terms of just restocking that roster to continually be contenders in the South. So, yeah, I like the pick. I was expecting another one, so I was just surprised.
I love it. Well, the Broncos are next up on the board here, Nick, and they're your pick. I have a couple names in mind myself here, so I'm really interested to hear where you have Denver going.
Yeah, so this is going to be a little interesting because I'm not going to do what everyone thinks I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
What does everyone think you're going to do?
Omari and Hampton is what I think everyone thinks I'm going to pick here.
I definitely thought you were going to pick Omari and Hampton.
and be super chalk. I'm going to go a different path.
Okay.
And mainly based off of my best player available, best on helping Bo Nix. I know they just signed Evan Ingram. I'm going to go Colston Loveland. I think Colston Loveland is the best guy available. I think he's a great target for Bo Nix. Helps out in that run game. They run the ball a ton, so he can help out in terms of digging guys out, going one-on-one against smaller DNs. Also in the passing game, they're not going to be super vertical down the field. They're going to have that intermediate to short game where Loveland, I think, is going to live and thrive. So I'm just going to go BPA here, and then Denver will take it back in round 2 or 3.
Wow. Definitely have not seen Colston Loveland going to the Broncos. I really like that pick. And Phil, it sounded like you really liked it as well.
Yeah, I do. I think that it's a great pick for Bo Nix. I think that tight ends are consistently undervalued in today's NFL. I think if you look at a lot of winning teams, they all tend to have a pretty great receiving tight end. If not great, then at least passing. I mean, I think you look at Travis Kelce with the Chiefs. You look at Sam Laporta with the Detroit Lions. I mean, you even look at a Dallas Goedert for the Philadelphia Eagles. You see guys that can stretch the field at tight end or make a clutch grab in when they have it. They do have Evan Ingram, who is good, right? That's what you said. Evan Ingram. He is.
Yep.
Honestly, I didn't even remember that he was with the Dolphins. With the Broncos. He's bounced around so damn much. But Evan Ingram is solid. I think Loveland gives them a much more long-term piece. I mean, as we know with Evan Ingram, he's not going to stay in one place for too long. So I would highly doubt if they re-sign him. So I think Loveland's a solid choice. Also for a guy like Bo Nix, who is a system quarterback. Don't kill me, Broncos fans. He's a safety valve. So I think that's a pretty solid pick for the Denver Broncos.
We're still running with the Bo Nix being a system guy after last year.
I think Sean Payton made him look really good.
Okay.
I don't think he's like bad.
I thought he was pretty good, man. I don't know. I wasn't a believer, and he made me a believer last year. So I'll just say that. So I don't know if I would agree with system quarterback. I like Bo Nix,
Well,
but
what do you guys think on that? I actually want to know, what do you guys think on that?
I think every quarterback has a different style. That's the thing. I think his style people don't love. He's very conservative. He's not going to take a lot of chances, but I think he's better than what people thought. He's a little older, so I get it, but it's short passes, it's safe passes. He'll roll out. He'll use his athleticism. But I think he played really well last year, like really well.
Yes.
Considering, well, look at his weapons too. I was a huge Cortland Sutton fan coming out. My OG people will know that one. But I mean, other than him, who did they have? I think Javonte Williams is very bad. Marvin Mims. There wasn't a ton besides that. Man, I'm trying to think of who is the Villele or whatever. He's.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I just
agent guy. There's not a lot to help him. Yeah. So to me, I thought he played above expectations.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Jacob,
what about you, Jacob? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I think Bo Nix, I think he's a solid quarterback who's in a really good system. So I think there are a lot of quarterbacks who you can say, yeah, they're system quarterbacks, like a Brock Purdy, who are elevated by their, coaching, elevated by their surroundings. I think that Bo Nix is certainly one of them, but that's not to take away from what he did as a rookie, especially in the second half of last year. I think that he's someone who can distribute the ball quickly and accurately. And I think that that's the most important trait you can have to be just a baseline, solid starting quarterback. There's so many quarterbacks in the league who have incredible arms, who have, a plenty of, athleticism, creativity out of structure, but as a pure pocket passer, they just don't have it. And I think Bo Nix certainly does. I think that, sure, is his arm elite? No. Is he an elite athlete? No. He's solid at both.
Yeah.
Is he super creative outside of structure? Not really. But again, he's not terrible. So I think Bo Nix, he, at least in the second half of last year, I'm curious to see how he does in year two. I think by the end of this year, we'll be talking about him as a good starting quarterback. I don't think he's ever going to be elite, but I think he should be good for a long time.
Dang.
Gotcha. I love it. I think that is a good pick for sure. I think that Bo Nix definitely used a guy like Colston Loveland, and I want to hear who the Steelers can use now. Mr. Phil, what do you think about 21 here for Pittsburgh? I know that there's been some talk about maybe going after a certain most important position in all of football for the Steelers in the draft. Do you have them going with the most important position in all of football?
I do, and thanks a lot for taking my thunder here, Dave. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just playing. But Pittsburgh Steelers fans, I'm going to be here for you, and luckily for you, I don't have to take somebody who I think will hopefully go later. But I'm going to take Shedeur Sanders for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, it's a funny pick. Imagine the Sanders with Pittsburgh, with that organization. It doesn't really make sense. However, it does make a lot of sense because they let Justin Fields walk. They let Russell Wilson walk. I mean, who's going to play quarterback for them? It's got to be somebody. I think they need to draft a quarterback. I think if Shedeur Sanders has lasted this long, I think it would be malpractice. I'm not a big Shedeur Sanders guy, but I think that at this point, in the draft, it would be malpractice for the Pittsburgh Steelers, given their room, to pass on him. I mean, he has all the traits that you do want. I just don't think that his ceiling is that high. Like, he has some issues that have played quarterbacks in the past. His mechanics aren't the greatest, as we've seen with Justin Fields, like a slow release or different kind of mechanics issues like footwork and whatnot can really hinder a quarterback and what their ceiling is. But he is a Sanders. I do believe in like the bloodline. I believe in how good a player can be because they have been expected to be great their whole lives. That guy's probably thought he was the man since he was like 5 years old. Yeah. So I do believe in that part of it because confidence and mental, I guess skill, toughness, whatever, confidence, it matters in sports especially. So I'm going to go with Shedeur Sanders with this pick.
Wow, very interesting. I know Pittsburgh fans from my intel, which is my buddy Ian in the chat actually told me that all of his fan groups love Jackson Dart over Shedeur Sanders. Nick, I don't know what you think of Shedeur Sanders, but if you can give me a quick little rundown, what do you think this is a good pick? Do you think he'll be a good quarterback? What are your thoughts on a very polarizing prospect?
I don't have a first round grade on Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's super fair. I just feel like who's throwing passes for them though? I mean, I don't know.
They need somebody. I like Jackson Dart more than Shedeur, but I don't have either of them very high. I think Shedeur takes too many sacks. I think he has some good accuracy. To me, he's more of like a Teddy Bridgewater type of a quarterback, which is okay. It's just not a high ceiling. I don't think it's a super high floor either. So just kind of is what it is. And that team, they're veterans, man. They just traded for Metcalf, Mika Fitzpatrick, Watts, 31. I mean, Cam Hayward's super old too. So like, I don't know. To me, I think they can't have time for someone to develop, but they need to hit on quarterback at some point. They can't wait, another decade for Ben Roethlisberger to emerge.
Oh my God.
No, that's a great point. I don't like Shedeur myself. I think that he is, I'm not a huge fan of his at all.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm going to.
This pick really like bent me over a barrel. It felt like.
No, but teams are going to do stuff like this. You need a quarterback. You're spot on. You can't walk into a season with your best quarterback being Mason Rudolph. And right now they're planning on doing that. So they have to have a quarterback in some way, somehow. So I don't hate going there. I don't hate picking Sanders over Dart. I don't really care for him myself. I'm going to go to the Chargers next. This is my pick. I got the Chargers jersey in the background, one of the two random ones I have of former first-round talents that I threw up behind me. For the Chargers, I think that I think I'm going to go with Jahdae Barron here. I think I'm going to take the cornerback from Texas. I think he very well could end up being a better cornerback than Will Johnson, even though I love Will Johnson. If he gets exposed, he's going to get super exposed. Jahdae Barron, been a really good player for Texas. I got to watch them play a little bit. So I'm going to go with Jahdae Barron here. There's a couple other corners I really wanted them to take. I feel like the Chargers always kind of go off the board a little bit. You think they're going one way and they go like with that position, but not that guy. I really want to say Azareye'h Thomas here from Florida State. He just screams Chargers to me for some reason, but I'm going to go with Jahdae Barron, and I'm going to leave the floor for the Packers, the wonderful Green Bay Packers, our favorite team, the hometown of the NFL draft. And I want to hear from Mr. Jacob now and hear who the Green Bay Packers are going to be adding.
I will be taking Bowling Green quarterback Connor Bazelak because I think that would be funny. So there you go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
How do you spell that? Okay, I'm in. So we're gonna have the Bowling Green quarterback. Obviously, I think we all agree with this take. This is a good pick, right? Everybody, we all like.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I love it.
They should use a first-round pick on this guy for sure.
I mean, you need to develop a quarterback for, it's the cycle. You have to keep planning ahead.
He could sit, 6-7 years sitting behind Jordan Love, and maybe he'll take 80% of his talent, just like Love took 80% of Rodgers' talent, and then maybe they'll be a mediocre quarterback. I love it. Do you want to give a different pick there, Jacob, or do you want me to throw that on our board and have that be the case?
Nope, throw it on there.
Fuck yeah, I love it. I love it,
my man.
Nick, you get a little bit of a boost here now because you could have potentially been sniped, but I don't think you had whatever he just said as your pick for the Vikings here. So who's going number 24 to Minnesota?
No, I did not expect that one, but hey, got to trust the process, right?
Hey,
we gotta, know how that works.
Hey, Green Bay develops quarterbacks, man.
That's what they do.
Yeah, nothing they do is wrong.
Just look at Jordan Love.
Harold Fannin is a Connor Bazelak merchant, and everyone's going to see that when he tears it up in Green Bay 15 years from now.
Don't you guys remember the was it Michael Pratt beat Caleb Williams stuff last year?
Oh yeah,
it's ridiculous, but we're the only ones that say anything. They don't, we're not rent free in their heads either. I'm really torn because there's a lot of good guys that they could go with here. I think Minnesota's going to go defense. Even with Hampton here, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go Walter Nolan. I think that adding a good defender to that front, especially in the interior, they have guys on the outside. Someone in the interior makes sense. I almost wanted to go Grant, your boy Jacob, in terms of a run stuffer, but I think that they prioritize penetration. And I think Walter Nolan has the highest upside here in terms of a guy that can just be disruptive and just add more havoc to that defense.
I think it's a great pick. I think that I would hate it as a Bears fan. I do not want them to take a Walter Nolan. I would love if they took a Marion Hampton, as you were mentioning. I know I've been eyeing him as a Minnesota guy for a while now. So I definitely going off the board there. And Walter Nolan, that would absolutely suck. So hopefully not the case there. Houston is next. Houston is on the clock, and Phil is the general manager for the Houston Texans. And I need to know, where are they going?
Man, this one's tough, man. Honestly, I'm a little bit stumped. I would like actually to use a little help from the panel because the guys that I had on my board, like the top 3 guys I had, are gone right now. So I'm gonna phone a friend, and then I'll make my final decision at the end. What do you guys think that Houston's going to do?
I think it's got to be a line here.
Okay, that's fair. You know what? So for that, I'm going to take Josh Connerly for my dad. I'm going to do that for my dad. And honestly, I really wanted Simmons here. I really had him penciled in. I didn't know if he would fall because of his injury. So that's why, or Banks. I had them both. They were 2 out of my 3 guys. So, I mean, the fact that they're. What's that?
I think I would go Ibuka, to be honest, because I think it's such a like reach for a need, and Ibuka is just so good. And I mean, how long are you going to count on Tank Dell getting healthy and Christian Kirk is just whatever? I think at that point I would just go BPA and just try to help. Get the ball out in 2 seconds instead of worried about the pass rush.
Man, Christian Kirk in the big 2025. What an unbelievable time to be a Texans fan.
He's not
really
bad.
going to depend on him.
Come on, guys. He's not bad. Opposite Nico Collins. Come on. He's all right.
Doubt. I don't know about all that. But I agree with the offensive line. I like that pick here for Houston. I think I had a different offensive lineman if I was going to take one. I might have gone Tyler Booker myself, but Josh Connerly works really well here for what they're looking to accomplish. So Josh Connerly to Houston, which brings up me and the Los Angeles Rams. I just want to say really quick, I would love to spend a day with Sean McVay. So this is a really good boost for my resume here. But for the Rams, I think they got to go defense. I think they really need quite a few pieces in the defense. I really wanted to take Jahad Campbell here if he fell, but I didn't think he was going to fall this much. So my backup plan was going corner here. I'm going to have them take Siobhan Ravel Jr. out of East Carolina. Go Pirates. And I'm going to have them go with a corner here and take a guy off the board who has been really shooting up draft boards a lot recently. Nick, what do you think about that?
I like Siobhan Revel. I mean, he's 24, but long, athletic. I mean, great backstory too. Like a guy that got a walk-on trial for East Carolina after a shift at Amazon. Like he grinded to get this chance, and he had the opportunity to transfer prior to this year. He didn't. He stayed East Carolina because they gave him a chance, and then they tore his ACL, unfortunately. But you want to think of like the highest upside corner here. I know he's a little older, but like this guy's like, think of Richard Sherman. Like he's 6'2", long. He's skinnier, but he's actually really fast. I mean, he's going to have bad hips, but tall corners aren't going to have good hips. So I like him a ton. This seems earlier for me than I like, but I like him as a player.
Yeah. And really one of the main factors for the Rams is their willingness to take Jared Verse last year and seeing how well it worked out for them, taking the older player that had some question marks still. They felt like they could get a lot out of him, and they sure did. I love Jared Verse. Bears Twitter was furious at people insinuating the Bears might take him at 9. They were not having it.
They were
offensive rookie of the year.
Never understood that. I never understood the Jared Verse hate. Like, where'd that come from? Because he had good tape, man. I don't understand.
Yeah. No, I didn't get it either. I liked him a lot, and so I think the Rams keep doubling down and getting players who are ready now. They got to get win now players, and if you're at pick 26, a 24-year-old corner that can start right away is probably as close you're going to get to an impact player on day one, which is going to lead us to number 27, which is the Baltimore Ravens, which is Mr. Jacob Infante's pick. They are still just not able to get over that hump in the AFC, man. What do you got to help them do that?
Yeah, so I'm really tempted to go edge here. I honestly do really like James Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he'd be a great eventual replacement for Kyle Van Noy, and him and Odafe Alway on that rushing off that edge. That's freak athleticism right there. But that's not the direction I'm going to go. I'm going to go with my best player available on my board. I feel like the Ravens do a really good job of not overthinking players. And there's one guy I think, a lot of people tend to overthink just because his testing wasn't elite, and that's going to be Malachi Starks. So I'm taking him for the Baltimore Ravens. If I compare him and Kyle Hamilton together, it's wraps. It's wraps for the rest of the AFC North. I think that Starks is, at least to me, I have him as my number 11 overall player on my board. I think he's, at least on tape, the best safety by a country mile. I know Eman Wari's got a higher, physical upside. I have Eman Wari as my safety 3 behind Starks and Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame. But I'm taking Starks here. I think super high football IQ. He's a quick processor in coverage, fluid hips, willing to play with physicality in the run game. He's the type of guy I don't think you have to worry about too much at the next level. And sure, he's not the fastest, but his play speed more than makes up for it. And how quickly he acts upon his diagnoses, I think the playing speed might honestly be faster than some other safeties in this class who run a faster 40-yard dash time. So I think that's an impact starter from the get-go for Baltimore. So if I'm them at 27, I'm very happy with that pick.
Yeah. Question from the chat for Jacob. Do you think Carson Schlesinger goes late first round? Is he a first round talent to you?
So I'll say me specifically, I don't have him as a first round pick. I think he'd make a lot of sense for a linebacker needy team in the second round. I think that you look at that combination of athleticism and motor, there's really a lot to like there. Honestly, this isn't like my firm comparison because I'm sure that there are some different similarities or some differences. I'd have to run the numbers, but I think of it kind of like Jack Campbell coming out of Iowa, and he did end up going first round, but a lot of people were kind of like, I don't know about that one. But he's, a freak athlete, works super hard. He's relentless getting to the ball. I don't know necessarily if there's the consistency quite yet with him being a one-year wonder, more or less, to be a first-round pick. I have him as a second-rounder. I wouldn't be shocked, though, depending on how high Jahad Campbell goes. I could maybe see Schlesinger maybe sneaking into the really late first round, but I think he's more of a second-round guy for me.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, so what if he did sneak into the defense? Into the second round, and the Bears took him? Is he a Jack Sanborn like a replacement for you, man? Potentially. Like a Halas Beat training camp Prince?
Yeah, so in the Jack Sanborn replacement, are we talking about in the starting lineup or in terms of the Jack Sanborn more? My love for Jack Sanborn.
Yes, your love, 100%.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean,
he's the guy.
That's a very, very high bar to reach, but I do think the one thing that Carson Schlesinger has, he's got the flow. He's got the hair.
Oh, yeah.
That I think is going to make him really endearing to Bears fans if they do draft him in the second round, which I don't know. I mean, I think Tremaine Edmonds is as good as gone next year. So, I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. I don't think they do go linebacker second round, but crazy.
But it would be fun. It would be fun for the replacement.
It would be.
Well, Jacob, okay, here's the biggest question, though. Yeah. And this will determine, if we want him to be on the Bears or not.
Of course.
Who is Carson Schlesinger dating?
Good question.
Yeah. Margot Robbie, I thought, right?
No. So
shit.
I've heard some rumors that Carson Schlesinger has been getting a lot of DMs from Tate McRae recently. He's focused on the NFL draft. So he's, degree in nuclear physics. So yeah, there you go.
He's physical, all right.
Captain for 3. Yeah, he's a smart guy. But Tate McRae's like, please, Carson, can we go out on a date? And Carson's like, no. And then that's
gym time. It's gym time.
Exactly. Yeah. He's married
so
to
much
the grind. He's married to the grind. And if he's not studying tape, he's studying
pussy.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say like molecules or some shit.
That too.
But I mean, that too. He doesn't need to study though. He already knows what he's doing.
This is honestly like I was trying to watch Caleb Johnson tape, and who I'm a lot lower on, I think, than consensus. And I kept focusing on Carson in this game. This is my first game I watched him, and he's like that annoying guy that's just always around and like stopping where you want to go. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would love him on Chicago. Now again, I think Tremaine Edmonds is gone after next year as well. I mean, they could draft him at 41. I'd be like, I'm fine. I get it. He's a good football player, but he's, as you're saying, like he only started 1 year. So like he still's going to get better and better. So like, I think you're kind of projecting like how good could he be? And I don't like drafting a linebacker early, but I think he could be a good player.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I mean,
so much friends.
Yeah, I don't want a nerd. I'm just gonna say it, especially if in a linebacker crew. I don't want a nerd. I want an alpha male.
He doesn't play like a nerd though. He doesn't play like
a nerd. No, he does not.
Yeah.
No,
Excuse me, Davey. Excuse me. I'm gonna fight back about that. You want your middle linebacker to be the smartest man on your defense?
Yeah, about football, not about nuclear physics.
It's interlocking, dude. I was smart in school, and I was calling all the plays in high school because of that.
I would draft you first round in the NFL draft. I would.
Okay,
I'll say it. I'm
going undrafted free agent, baby.
I'm higher on Phil than most. I'll say it. That's my scouting report on Phil. I'm going to hand over to Nick now for the final NFC North pick. You get 2 back-to-back, so I'm sorry about that. But just how the numbers ended up, the Lions are on the clock, pick 28. I think a lot of people in Detroit thought they'd be picking at 32 this year, but here they are ready for you to give us an idea of who's going to Detroit.
Yeah, I'm just looking at quarterbacks: Jalen Milroe, Will Howard.
Yeah, they got to get rid of that baby hands, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna pick a guy that might not be on people's radars right away with Detroit, but I think it's the most Detroit Lions pick ever. And after I say it, you're gonna be like, yeah. I think that Tyler Booker makes a ton of sense in Detroit.
Yep. Yeah.
God damn it.
I mean, they just lost, obviously, Kevin Zeitler. Christian Mahanage is going to be right guard. Graham Glasgow is okay at left guard, but I think like continue to restock that line. Taylor Decker's getting up there in age. They need to start doing that. I think Tyler Booker is like a Detroit Lion, like 100% type of the dude.
No, I definitely like that pick. I like the Lions always tend to reach for people because they do not give a fuck about rankings. They do not care.
I respect that.
You talked about Jack Campbell. They did not care that everyone had a second round grade on Jack Campbell. They were like, we can't trade back up into the first round. If we want to take our linebacker of the future, we're taking him now. We're going to take Jahmyr Gibbs. now. We're not going to wait for the next one. So saying Tyler Booker's the best player on our board, I'm going for him. I think that's a perfect pick for Detroit. I hate it. I don't want that to happen, but I could definitely see it happening, which brings Phil to his final pick as general manager. And Phil, when the board came together and I saw that you got your favorite team, the team whose fan base has accepted you as one of their own. I know how much you and the Commanders fans have gotten along over the years. So I'd love to hear who you have for your Washington Commanders at 29.
Well, as a secondary Commanders fan, I was, very interested on really trying to square away something that was really weak for the Commanders. And, thinking of all the injuries they had in this room last year, I was thinking that it'd be really great for them to replace these guys and get somebody more consistent, somebody that was going to make all of their field goals. And I'm going to take Ryan Fitzgerald. Fuck you, Washington.
Wow. They do need a kicker. They do need a kicker. It's true. We are off the rails now. Ryan Fitzgerald. Let me type it in. Send it in, baby. Obviously, we know that Florida State kickers just, especially when drafted very high, they are just phenomenal. I mean, I was there when Roberto Aguayo became the kicker of the future of the Buccaneers. That draft was in Chicago. So trading up for a kicker, honestly, I could see someone else trading up trying to steal him. That's a great pick. I'm going to just feel free to say no, Jacob and Nick. I truly... Do you have any thoughts on kickers or punters in this year's draft that you just really got to get off your chest?
I've got one.
Yes, I love it. I knew you would.
So I'm hardly gonna say I went through and scouted every single game of the top kickers and punters and long snappers of this class, but at the same time, I like to do a little bit of research. I really like the kicker out of Arizona. So that's going to be Tyler Loop.
Big leg.
Yeah. So I think he's got the biggest leg out of the kickers I've seen. I think he's got a strong leg. He's pretty consistent from long distance, and he's a little bit more accurate than some of the other big leg kickers in this class. There are some guys where, you can see it. There's some good velocity as the ball is coming off their leg, and they've got consistent mechanics, but the accuracy is just not quite there. I think Loop does a good job of that. If you ask me to say anything more about him, I'll probably have nothing to say, but Tyler Loop is my top kicker in this class. Ryan Fitzgerald's number 2. I think both those dudes get drafted. I mean, you don't have
Washington.
Of course. Yeah. In the same class. And I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's a Tory Taylor type this year. I don't think there's I don't know. I was higher on Matt Araiza than many when he was coming out. Ben Sauls is another guy I do have on my board. I have my top 5 kickers. Ben Sauls is on there. But anyway.
I need to take a minute to say this.
Yeah.
I have no issues with the Tory Taylor pick. I know people keep bringing it up.
Let's go.
Can we talk about day 3 last year was terrible. There was such a lack of talent that getting Tory Taylor in that class and then saying getting a punter in the 4th round, you can't compare 4th rounds year to year. That's like saying the 10th pick last year, which was, I think, Fashanu, is the same as this year, which it's not. We know this class isn't as good. People have to get away from that. Tory Taylor immediately improved the Bears punting game and was not a bad pick. Like, if they took Austin Booker where Tory Taylor was and they flipped the picks, it wouldn't matter. Austin Booker, I don't think, had a good year at all. I thought he was a really bad D end, to be honest. So, I just, people get off of your high horse. It's in the past. It was a bad day 3 draft class, and they took the best talent they saw.
Yeah. I love Tory Taylor. I loved the pick. I still love the pick. I was at a bar saying it would be so cool if the Bears took Tory Taylor right here, and then they took him. So I got brownie points with my friends for that one. I sounded like I was super knowledgeable, but I love the pick as well. I think it's great. I'm happy someone else said it first so that I could just say, yeah, I'm with you, as opposed to making the big statement myself. But no, I do. I love Tory Taylor. I'm excited to see what kickers and punters go this year as well. I think the Bears could be in the market for one if they can maybe a 6th, 7th round pick, if they could find somebody who hit from 60 plus, might have a.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say maybe Tyler Loop.
Maybe Could be. There's a few options there. I'm going to make my last pick really quick. I'm going the Buffalo Bills, and I'm doing a trifecta here because I've taken cornerback the last 2 picks. I think it's still a huge pressing need for the Bills. They are trying to they brought back Tre'Davious White. They're trying to rely on him in 2025 to shore up a cornerback room. I don't think that's going to happen at all. But I think they can get a good start on trying to rebuild that room by drafting Maxwell Harrison out of Kentucky. A ton of speed, and the Chiefs add Xavier Worthy. Twice a year you have to face Tyreek Hill in your division, or Jalen Waddle, depending on how that works out. So adding a lot of speed makes a lot of sense in the cornerback room. I like Harrison. I like these small school corners. I think the small school corners that really elevate themselves to being top round talents, there's a reason why people missed out on them. It's a tough position to scout, especially going high school to college. I think, you're seeing now some of these guys really get into their own element, and he's one of them. So I'm taking Maxwell Harrison there at number 30, which brings the Chiefs, who I just mentioned, with their Xavier Worthy selection last year. Mr. Jacob, your final pick on the board for the Chiefs.
All right, so just to make 100% sure, because my laptop crapped out on me. So Ryan Fitzgerald, the kicker out of Florida State, was the pick for the Washington Commanders, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Oh yeah, 100%. They need him.
Obviously. Okay, got it. That's what I thought. But see, this is a tough one for me. You know what? Actually, I'm not going to overthink it too hard. I'm going to go Kenneth Grant.
It's a steal.
Run stuff, defensive tackle. Him next to Chris Jones, I think would be very tough to stop. I think, you lost Tershawn Wharton in free agency. You need another interior defensive line presence. Grant, I think, is going to be someone who can contribute right away. Mm-hmm. The pass rushing, the full value might take a little bit to get there, but I think there's certainly a ceiling there. I almost took Omarion Hampton. Full disclosure, that was a very strong consideration for me, but I have Kenneth Grant higher on my board. Yeah. I think he'd play a bigger role in year 1, so I went with Kenneth Grant, but Hampton would definitely be a lot of fun in that Kansas City offense.
Yeah.
That made me sick a little bit, actually.
That would be pretty nice. I think that, obviously there's going to be trades and stuff like that, but unless Nick shocks the world, Omarion Hampton falling out of the first round would be would definitely be a surprise. I think it would allow the Bears to potentially move up to 33. They have all day on Friday to trade up to 33 if they wanted to try to get him there, as opposed to wasting the 10 pick. Nick, you may shock the world with Omarion Hampton just because of his value, but obviously the Eagles are the defending champs on the shoulders of Saquon Barkley, and they have the final pick here of the first round. So what do you think? What are the defending champs going to do?
Well, I was going to shock the world, but you took all the wind out of my sails, Dave. So I'm kidding. I wasn't going to. I think they have 3 areas here. Now, again, I know it's diluted because of the 2 picks that we had, but I think there's 3 areas they really could go here. I'm gonna pick the last one that is give me that pick. I think Trey Amos makes a lot of sense, corner for them. I think a sneaky pick for them would be Mason Taylor, tight end, to replace Dallas Goedert. Wow. That's typically not their way. They typically take the best player available, the most talented guy, and that's just how he does. So I'm going to go with, and this is my board, I'm going to go Donovan Ezeraku. I think he's an awesome edge talent. He's got really, really good pass rush moves. I have him over James Pierce Jr., and again, they just continue to reload. That's what the Eagles do. I was going to go Kenneth Grant to go, Jacob. So
snipe.
My dad loves that pick. He loves Ezeraku. He would be happy with him at 10.
Yeah, I thought he was going to go. I like him at 19 to Tampa.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay. I do want to point out really quick, at tight end, you put Mason Taylor there as the guy you mentioned. I've seen a lot of love for a few guys, including Harold Fannin, including Elijah Arroyo, including Gunnar Helm. What do you think, if I could put you on the spot here, for Mason Taylor makes him the tight end you thought to mention in that spot?
Yeah, I also like some of the other guys you mentioned there, but I think Mason Taylor is the most well-rounded of the group there. Let's also not forget his dad is Jason Taylor, y'all. Hall of Famer.
Well done.
I think he's a young guy. I think he's still ascending. I think in terms of a complete package, to me, I mean, Jacob, you can tell me what you think here, but I think of like you could comp him to like a Cole Kmet, where I don't think he's going to be like sexy in any area in terms of being like so good, but I think he's really good at, being dependable, good hands, route running, after the catch, blocking. He does all those well. Look, where Arroyo, who you mentioned, I think is the best overall receiving type guy in that second tier. I think he has a really high ceiling there. Blocking's a little bit lower. Fannon's just a weird. He's a weird dude, man. He runs weird. He just runs weird, and his test's bad, but he still gets to where he needs to go. Like, it's the weirdest thing, but he's not a good blocker. So you can go and piece guys through, but I think Taylor, has the highest floor. And if you want a replacement for Goddard, who I've heard is on the trade block, I think Mason Taylor makes some sense there.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. Honestly, if you do end up trading Goddard, I think Mason Taylor, that's a pretty fair assessment on him. Honestly, I don't think he's ever going to be this guy who's, consistently separating against cornerbacks out of the slot or anything like that. But he's a reliable possession type of receiving tight end who, has a good frame and knows how to, free himself open, be like a security blanket against zone coverage for his quarterback. So I have him as a round 2 guy. I know there's been a decent amount of buzz. Maybe they have 3 tight ends going in the first round. If there is any tight end that goes in the first round outside of Tyler Warren, outside of Colston Loveland, I'd bet on Mason Taylor. That's just my opinion. Yeah. So I do like him though. I like him. I wouldn't take him round 1, but I do think there's, I think he'll have a solid career in the league for quite some time.
Yeah, I love it. Question in the chat about Jalen Conyers, who was brought in for a top 30 visit by the Bears, tight end out of Texas Tech. Definitely probably the most out there name the Bears brought in. It was kind of a surprise to hear they did, but Ryan Poles loves to bring in just very, very random back end guys and see if he's the right fit for the culture. Any thoughts on Jalen Conyers from you, Jacob or Nick?
I have a couple. Nothing too intense. I mean, Conyers is more of like a day 3, later round type of guy. He's big. He's thickly built. He's physical, good hands, solid blocker. I don't think he's necessarily going to wow you as an athlete, but I think especially if you're drafting a tight end to be, a tight end 2 or a tight end 3 even, you're looking for a guy who can really block. And I think Conyers does a solid job of that. I think he got better at that as his collegiate career, went on. A little bit of thickness. He's tough after the catch too. I mean, no one's gonna
love that thickness.
Yeah, I mean, no one's gonna expect. No one's gonna mistake him for Brock Bowers in the open field. But I mean, he's tough. He's physical. I think he'd be a decent late round type of guy. I know they've got 2 second-round picks as it stands currently. I think that'd be solid value with one of those picks.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that you're going to develop as your 3rd tight end, I would think. I don't know that he's even going to become your 2nd tight end. But in Ben Johnson's offense, people don't remember this. In Detroit, they had the deepest tight end room, I thought, in the NFL in terms of just overall. They had 4 guys that were high quality. Conyers, I think, he's like a build-up speed guy. He's very inconsistent, I think, overall. He's not going to wow you in and out of breaks or anything either. So if you're looking for an upside guy, that's not going to be high for him, but I think he could have a reliable high floor.
Yeah, I think that's fair for sure.
I love it. Well, awesome. And that's pick 32, guys. We are wanted to, if you're okay with our 2 guests, run through a couple of questions that may have been missed through the chat. You guys have a couple extra minutes to spare on our wonderful live chat that sat with us for the draft tonight.
There's not much. This is real quick.
Yeah.
Sure. I guess real quick. Anybody that wants to answer this, go ahead.
Why has Tremaine Edmonds been so underwhelming? Can I start off, Nick, and then I'll pass to you?
Yeah.
Because he's a workout warrior. He's just super fast. That's really all he's got. He doesn't have the right football sense. He makes up for with his athleticism, but we've talked a lot about guys like that tonight so far. He fits that mold of the guy that is a workout warrior. What are your thoughts?
To me, I think he has just slow reactions. Slow reactions, slow instincts. And so he kind of waits to get the guy and catches guys versus going and delivering the blow, which I saw from Carson Schwetzinger. I don't see that from Tremaine Edmonds. He's a fantastic athlete. He's a humongous human being, but you can't sit and wait in this league. You have to go and attack. And I can't tell you how many times if he would have gotten to the guy, like took 1 or 2 steps forward, it would have stopped them on 3rd down. It would have, prevented them from getting first downs or keeping them behind the chains. But he's just not one of those guys. So to me, it's reaction time, which I think is big because people are like, well, you're fast. How quick do you make the decision and go? And also like reading and sifting through the garbage in front of him, the blocking. I think he's not great at that either.
Yeah, I think, Nick, I think you summed it up well. Honestly, the phrase that I like to use is he's more reactive than instinctive, where, he doesn't really anticipate super well. He sees, okay, he shot outside of the tackles. Now I'm going to go chase after him. Rather than, hey, I see this opportunity, I'm going to go, this is the read that I'm making. I'm going to go shoot over here. And I think that, again, like sifting through the garbage, like when he's, in the box defending in between the tackles, there are some times he can just look lost, which,
Definitely.
Is unfortunate because he's such a gifted athlete. But I feel like for someone he got drafted in 2018, that's someone you should be able to consistently make those type of reads, consistently be able to fill those gaps and have that gap integrity to, make the right movements necessarily to get to the ball carrier. So I think that's
it would be amazing to put TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds' body. That would be like the perfect linebacker.
My God. Yes, that would be amazing. I feel like Dave's a little hard on Tremaine Edmonds. Respectfully, I think that he has had moments of good production in his career. So I don't like to put him in the workout warrior Shamar Stewart category. But I think that I agree that he's been underwhelming. I'm excited to see him work with this Bears coaching staff. If he sucks again this year, I'm out. I'm out completely. But I feel like everybody last year played underneath what they were supposed to. That's why I'm not on Tyreek Stevenson. That's why I'm not on some of these guys, because the coaching staff had this whole team disgusted. And so it's hard for me to buy into what I watched last year as what those players are. Personally. Moving on here. Just a quick yes or no. Are the Lions? They brought the Lions brought Milroe in for a top 30 visit. Is that serious? Yes or no?
I mean, I don't think that's Goff's replacement. I think he's fine for, at least the next couple of years, barring some massive drop off with the departure of Ben Johnson, which I don't think, sure, the offense might not be as strong, but I think they'll still be a pretty damn good offense just because of the personnel that's there and the culture they have. Maybe they want, because Hendon Hooker, it's not looking like he's going to develop into a long-term starter by any means. Sure, maybe they go for Milroe, and I don't think they take him in the first round. I think it's way too early to take a quarterback if you're the Lions, especially if you're pushing for, the Super Bowl like they have been the last 2 years. I think that's just more like an intel sort of thing, just to put feelers out, I wouldn't put a ton of stock into that. And I don't think Milroe is going to be available in late round 2. To the point where the Lions could take him. I think that'd be better value than taking him round 1, but I think someone's going to end up taking him early round 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a little more faith in Hendon Hooker, but I think it was very telling when they signed Teddy Bridgewater as their playoff backup quarterback after he coached his high school team to a state title. I thought that was very telling. But what's interesting is like you couldn't put 2 more polar opposite quarterbacks together if you had Jared Goff and him. So I don't know if they're like thinking of like, hey, we're going to develop some packages with Milroe running, if that's maybe what they're thinking. But no, I don't think of that anything real serious with that visit.
If you combine Jacob's point about getting intel and Nick selecting Tyler Booker for the Lions at pick 28, I think you might be able to see why they might have brought in a guy like Jalen Milroe for appearance. I hate Jalen Milroe. I don't think he's a successful NFL quarterback. So I hope the Lions take him. That would be phenomenal. But probably not. I think they just want to get a little more information about the guy and bring in somebody with a lot of talent to see if maybe he might be able to play other positions even in the NFL.
Yeah, maybe the commander should take him instead of that kicker.
Maybe.
So they could spell Jaden Daniels, when he's running and getting his ribs broken in half because he's like 100 pounds. Anyways, we're going to move on here to this question.
Yeah. Chiefs for Wyatt Milam. Wyatt Milam was a guy that I considered taking in the first round here and eventually decided not to for some specific reasons. But Nick, I want to hear yours first because I think you might have the same thought as I do. So I'm going to let you take it.
I think I like him a ton as a prospect. I think he's getting underrated a bit. He's a guy I always penciled in for Chicago and multiple mock drafts before they signed Drew Dahlman and they traded for 2 guards. He's got positional versatility, played tackle in college, but I think he's more of an interior guy based on length. There's a theme, y'all. We keep talking about this continually. It's because the NFL says so. But I think he definitely could be a guy that they develop as the next guard next to Creed Humphrey and apart from Trey Smith. Yeah, I like him a lot. That's a good pairing.
Interesting. I actually really don't like him. I don't like him. And the reason why I don't like him, is because
Let's do it.
I think that he's very clearly an interior offensive lineman. I think he's very clearly not an NFL tackle. I think he's a guard. And I do love my mean guards. He is a nasty West Virginia boy. But his weaknesses that I've seen in his game, kind of dealing with those interior moves and progressing from one guy block to the other guy, for example, on stunts, I don't like him on those, and he's going to get exposed on those on the inside all the time. And also, he has no experience in pulling. I just don't think that his skill set specifically. I think his skill set is a tackle skill set, and his body is a guard body, and I just don't think those two things are going to match up well in the NFL. Personally.
Yeah, I mean, I can see him. I don't like him in round 1. I mean, I like him maybe in that late round 2, maybe even round 3 range for Milam. But his pads can get high. I think sometimes he doesn't recover well. But I think part of that is he's not an edge guy. I think he's an interior guy. So yeah, we'll see. He also though adds some value. He snapped a little bit at the Senior Bowl, so he has some potential to be a future center. Now, again, not with the Chiefs, but with another team.
Yeah, no, definitely a good point. I think that might be his best position. That way, he could worry a little more about helping, and it's a lot more of one read on guys. So if he gets a center spot, that could be his best position. I think. I just the body and the mind don't really come together for me on that one myself.
That's fine.
Phil, do you have any other questions that we may have missed that we're interested in getting an idea on?
Like I said, I don't want to keep up I don't want to keep your guys' time more than you have. You guys have been great. Thank you for being here as long as you have. I mean, are you okay with me taking any more, or do you guys need to get out of here? I can move quickly, but we could just do quick answers.
I don't know about Nick. I'm cool to take one more. Probably after that, I'm gonna have to head out because I got a little bit of stuff I need to get done before the end of the night. But
let's do one more.
I can take one more.
Okay, I'm gonna take this one about the Bears. You know what? We're going to take this one.
Ooh. Trusting Brisker to stay healthy. Can we get an extra layer of his helmet? That's hilarious. Yeah, safety is a position that I definitely had to think about, even at 10 for the Bears. But there's a lot of deep talent safety. Jacob, I'll start with you, man. Is safety a position you're really putting big resources into?
Yeah, so safety is going to be interesting. I feel like if the Jaguars hired Ian Cunningham to be their GM, it would be so huge to have that compensatory 3rd-round pick in the late. I feel like that'd be fantastic to get a safety, honestly. So I'm a little bummed out that didn't end up working out. But regardless, I mean, I think safety is going to be a big need next offseason. Kevin Byard's still playing at a high level. Maybe you can extend him to like a 1-year, maybe a 2-year deal. But that's not a long-term option. And Jaquan Brisker's been good when he's played, but the best of ability is availability. And, with his extensive, concussion history, it becomes a question of, is that someone you trust to pay significant amount of money in the long term? As the way things stand right now, I'm going to say no. And that's nothing against Brisker. I like watching him play. He's a solid player. Hardly a liability, I think, at safety, but I don't think it's so undeniable where it's like, oh, well, he's playing at an elite level right out of the gate. He's a pretty solid average to maybe above average starting safety. But that's not someone I'm paying big money to with his injury history. So, I mean, safety is going to be interesting as far as how they attack that in the draft this year. I think that's going to be more of a 2026 priority because there are only, they've made their moves in free agency and they only have so many draft picks to work with. But that's going to be interesting to me to see if they maybe take a guy round 2, maybe they take a guy round 3. Round 3 would be really good value. I feel like you could get a good handful of guys. Maybe a Kevin Winston out of Penn State is a hard hitter. Andrew Makuba is a little bit more of a rangy type of safety, so a little bit better of a Byard fit than a Brisker fit. But those are 2 guys I like in that range. I'm a bit higher on Jalen Reed, also from Penn State, than most. That might be a little bit of a reach for some, but I mean, I'm a fan. So they'd have options. They'd have options for sure in round 3. I think that'd be a good spot to take a safety. I don't know if they do, but I think that's going to be more of a 2026 problem, honestly.
Gotcha. How about you, Nick? What are your thoughts on Brisker and his ability to stay healthy and what the Bears might do here?
I'm a little more negative on Brisker than Jacob is.
Understandable.
He hasn't stayed healthy his entire NFL career, which is a shame because I mean we had some pretty high hopes of him coming out of Penn State, but part of it too is I mean I don't think he's great in coverage. He's a lot more of a box safety. That's where he thrives, but he can't stay healthy. And so to me, I think going into this season with Jonathan Owens as your backup, who I don't love. I mean, he's bounced around his teams for a reason. He's a good athlete. Again, I don't know that he's a great.
Marries well though.
Marries well, not a great football player. I think he's a good athlete. And so to me, like having a guy that can cover and you can rely on would make sense. And you talked about Byard. I love Byard. Great signing. I think he's Byard and TJ Edwards are like the same guy. Great football players. Athleticism is trending down, but they help out your football team because they're in good positions all the time. But he's a free agent after next year. Brisker is too, and it's tough to invest money into him, as Jacob is saying. To me, I'm not a big Nick Emanwari fan, as I don't think Jacob is either. But like Starks, Watts, and Winston, those 3, I love those 3. I've been mocking a ton of them in round 2, 39 or 41 to Chicago. 72 is fine as well.
Love Watts.
Once you get past there, like you mentioned a few of them, Jacob, like Billy Bowman, I like, but he's got really short arms, like historically short arms. Think if his arms were 2 inches longer, I would like him a lot more. Like there's some guys, Hunter Waller of Wisconsin, like there's some decent guys, but I don't know that you draft them and like this is going to be a future starter. It's like this might be your safety 3. So I would like to get a guy that's going to be starting potentially this year if one of those guys can't stay healthy or you need them to step up, and they're definitely going to start next year, because if you don't, you could enter 2026 with 0 safeties on the roster. I think Owens and Hicks are free agents too. Like you don't have anybody, and I'm like, I don't trust Hicks or Owens to step up if you need them to. So to me, like I think that's more of a need than people are really realizing right now.
Yeah. Boys, if we start training now, we could be starting safeties for the Bears in 2026. I'll say it. I'll put a program together for us.
I'm 5'7", brother. I'm not going to be a starting safety for anybody.
Wow.
If that's the case, Dave, time to start selling the Taco Bell stock, because I got to get off of that.
Oh, no. Okay. I forgot about that. There's no chance. I'm not losing Taco Bell. Someone else can be. We'll let Jacob and we'll let Phil play on stilts, and we can have them be the 2 safeties of the Bears in 2026.
I'll replace Tremaine Edmonds, guys. I know I'm short, but I could read my guards. I know what to do.
I think I would trust you to hit a hole better than Tremaine Edmonds. I'll just say it.
Damn. Someone guys, LeBron James steroids.
Oh, yeah. We'll get a few of those. We'll do 1 rack of those. We're done for. Well, hey, guys, that is going to do it for the first round mock draft. Before we go, of course, we want to make sure that everyone gives follows. Jacob, where can people find you at? Don't forget to tell them about the Patreon this time.
Yeah. I mean, you guys can find me on Twitter, X at Jacob Infante 24. You can find my articles, Windy City Gridiron for Bears and NFL draft stuff, Pro Football Network for just general NFL draft stuff. You can check out my Patreon. It's got my full draft guide, patreon.com/Jacob Infante. So I went through it this time. I got everything down. So that should be good to go.
And you got to say Connor Bazaliak's name, Bazaliak's name on the show. So that's good. Nick, where can the people find you at, my friend?
At _Nick Whalen on Twitter. I think a lot of other ones too, but that's the main one. And then the Halas Beat is where I'm co-hosting right now. I mean, I also write some fantasy stuff over at Football Guys if people are into fantasy football too.
Boom. Love it. Phil, where can people find you at, man?
You can find me at JC Phil. That is JAYC Phil. And you can also find me at Just Another Year Chicago Bulls. just a preface that I am, I'm professional on that. That's where I be classy. But it's at JAYCHI_Bulls. And, come over there if you want optimism for your Chicago Bulls. I know, crazy thought. But also you can find me at Profane Pod with Davey. And I'll be honest, though, I do make tweets off of that account. But Davey is the fucking man. If it's a great tweet, it came from that man. I'm very blessed to have him as my co-host. And before I pass this off, I have to say thank you, Nick. Thank you, Jacob. You guys have both been integral to the beginning of our podcast.
Dude,
and I feel like we have had a very, very great start as opposed to what it could have been. And I owe a lot of that to you guys.
Definitely.
So thank you, thank you, thank you. I am eternally grateful for you. And if you ever need to come on this podcast to promote anything, you cut to the front of the line, gentlemen. You have that privilege. So thank you.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
No, thanks,
man. We'd super appreciate both of you. I'm at Davey.17 on Twitter, at Profane Pod. Don't forget to subscribe. You'll see more content like this. We also have a bunch of new projects coming up soon involving not only Chicago sports, but maybe some other ventures as well that you're definitely going to want to see. So like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel here. We're also on Spotify. I'm at Davey.17 and at Profane Pod on Twitter. For our wonderful guests, Jacob Infante and Nick Whalen, and for my co-host, Phil Charles VanDerHeyden IV, PCVIV. I am Dave Ridderhoff, and we are going to catch you all on the next one. Thank you all.